All right. Let me pull up the YouTube. First time I've streamed on YouTube in a while. This time I'm hosting, just so much better than joining other lives. It's like infinitely better. All right, so I don't know if YouTube can hear the audience when I go live. I guess I'll go live now on TikTok. Dude, the quality is so bad. Like, oh shoot, that's so loud. I don't understand why the quality is so bad. I really don't, but it is horrible. I guess I'll start liking. Wait, I'm so
I'm so
confused right
confused
now.
right now.
Don't even know
Don't
what's
even know
going
what's
on.
going on.
Wait, so can I hear myself now? But I'm turned both of these on now. All right, yeah. All right, I don't even care anymore. The quality, by the way, is so bad. If I just have to emphasize how bad the quality is. Shoot. AI generated images? Dude, I'm not AI, I'm real. What is this talking about? All right, like the live. I do support Trump. I think Trump is a fabulous president. If you want to talk about it, request up. I might change my political opinions this afternoon, or I guess this evening. Yeah, I know. I'm embarrassing myself. It's okay. What's up, dude? Okay. Howdy.
How's it going?
What's your age for TikTok purposes?
27.
All right. So, what did you want to come on and talk about?
What are your thoughts on abortion? I'd like to talk about that.
I'm pro-life, but if you're pro-choice, then we could debate that. Or if you're pro-life, I could debate from a pro-choice standpoint.
Okay. Well, no, I'm pro-choice, so I'm guessing you're pro-life. Looking at your hat.
Yeah. So, why are you pro-choice?
I think I am someone that looks at the best outcomes to for people and within our society. So if our society is experiencing more detrimental outcomes due to like policies or actions that are allowed within the society, I think that's a worse outcome than having the than allowing for abortion to exist or AV to exist, for example. So I always look at what's better for society versus what is better for the individual.
I'd say looking at what's best for society, having a mass, how do you say this with TikTok friendly words, having a lot of unalivement due to some sort of policy that's legalized. A lot of human beings are now dying in the womb. That would be a net negative for society if there's a lot of people that are unaliving. Now, I've heard the argument that since AB has been legalized, there's been less, poor people that have kids, meaning there's less crime or whatever. Honestly, I'm not going to sit here and say that just because there's less crime that justifies unaliving people. By that logic, we should just unalive all criminals because then they don't have a chance of doing the same crime again. So yeah, I don't think that.
I don't believe in that.
What do you mean?
I don't believe. See, I care about. I think this is like the difference between me and you is that I care for the living when they're outside of the womb, when they're born into the world, right? So that's why I am more left leaning, and I do believe in like more centralized care and social care for children, for lower classes and such. But unfortunately, if you build a system that's based off of money and having to provide yourself using a tool which is a currency in order to provide for yourself. When those constraints are heavy, when it comes to financial issues, you don't provide a outcome for people to want to have children or able to have children that would be good for society. You would just have lower income people who don't have the ability to have a very decent life and would ultimately, lead to worse outcomes like more crime, more, kids that are born into foster care and lead to more criminal records. Yeah, I just don't think that that's really a good outcome.
So I guess if I can just argue that people that are inside the womb are worthy of human life, it'd be a pretty easy assessment to. I guess we can both assume that we should probably allow them to live. Like if I could just prove to you that a person inside the womb and a person outside of the womb should be treated equal, do you think then you could get on the pro-life train?
Inside the womb, yeah, I mean, if you make the case that like a a child or a zygote, or I mean, not a child, but a baby within the womb, right? A zygote, whatever case, whatever part of the um, whatever part of the process that they're in. If you can make that the case that they're actually a human being, like a being or individual or person, then sure. But they're not, and you can just look at the definition of what a person is, and it's not like a baby in the womb.
Okay, so what is the definition of a person then?
A person is a being regarded as an individual, and an individual is single or separate by
What?
definition. So you can't look up the definition of individual, right? Single or separate. That's what they call it as.
Yeah, a
They
fetus
what's
would
what
be
they
a single individual. Now,
it
it's
can't be.
ironic. I do
Can't
want to
be
point
if
out
it's
you
it
use
can't be though.
use the argument, the definition of person instead of human being. So would you agree that fetuses inside the womb are human beings?
They're biologically human, but they're not people. They're not individuals. They're not people. They're not. It's not a person.
You know, this ironic because there's been quite a few times in history where there was a very large group of people, a very powerful dictator that did the exact same thing you're doing. You're classifying human beings that are biological human beings as not people, and they shouldn't be given human
Well,
rights.
that's
They're
why definitions are
individuals.
important.
Yeah, they're individuals. Like you can't argue that the person inside the womb is not an
How?
individual.
How?
But
Okay. Okay.
are they
Explain to
separate?
me how. How does okay wait, single right
Hmm.
or separate? How is a baby that is dependent? Let's say I cut out the fetus or I cut out the baby with inside the room. Will it die or will it live?
It will die, but just like a baby
Yeah.
will
Okay.
die if they
So
don't have
then
any help from their
therefore wait.
mother. Do you
Therefore
support
it's not
abortion
separate.
after birth?
Therefore it's not separate, right? Because if it can't be separated and live, then therefore it's dependent on that
It'd be the
mother's life.
exact same situation. If that's your argument that you're going to make, that they're not an individual. Number one, you'd have support all 9 months abortion because fetuses they need to survive on their mom for all 9 months. Also, you'd also have to argue that after birth, the fetus or the baby would still rely on their mother, and that would, by that logic, they would be not considered people. So, are you going to support abortion after birth?
What? No, because in many cases, when it comes to, let's say a baby's born, right? They can breathe, they can eat, and they can drink on their own. Yes,
They
does
can't
someone
survive
need
on
to
their
come
own.
up? Someone needs to give them those resources in order to live. However, they're not. They can function as a separate being outside of someone else. So if I'm inside the womb, I'm fully dependent on the organs, on everything else. I am being built upon. I am being manufactured by the biological material within that person, right? That mother. If I'm fully being developed by that woman's body, the woman has the full choice on whether that thing is being created or does she want it to actually exist. Or if you're for example, if you're a free market capitalist, right? I mean, you look at it as like a factory. She is producing something, right? And she is it's all fully dependent. It's all fully dependent on her well-being and on her body for it to exist.
I would say that's a very disingenuous comparison. The reason that's not a very good comparison is because you're comparing a product to a human being. A better comparison would be, what if a baby crawls inside a house that you own? Would you have the option to throw a fireball, throw like light the house on fire and watch it burn to the ground while a baby's inside, while you know the baby is inside, just because you own that house? Do you think that should be legal?
To throw a firebomb at someone's house.
Your own house. You own the house. You can do whatever you want to it, but you know there's a baby inside that house. Do you think it should be legal for you to destroy your own house with a baby
Yeah,
inside
but
that you
you're
know a baby is inside,
if
knowing
it's a
that fetus could
zygote,
die?
yeah. If it's a
Got it. So
zygote,
it's
as
about the
in
development, not the actual bodily autonomy. The argument is whether or not they're developed enough to be considered human beings.
yeah, if it's a fetus, which guess what? If the fetus is not, if there's a mother inside, then I can't. That'd be schmurder. If there's just an unborn fetus that is dead because it can't live off the mother that it was cut out, yeah, that's totally illegal because it's not alive. Guess what? It can't live without the mother, meaning that
Yes, neither can babies.
it's
Neither
not a
can 1 year
human
olds.
it's not a human being. It is human, has human
It is a
DNA.
human
It
being.
is biologically a human, but it's not a human being because it can't live separate from the mother.
Yes, and neither can 1 year olds. Neither can 2 year olds. Very few
Yes, they
people in this world
can.
can
Yes,
live
they
without any
can.
other human. Most people rely on other people, whether it be you working for your boss and your boss pays you, and you have the plumber that comes to your house. Everyone relies on each other except a very small group of people that like live independently. Okay, we all as a society rely on each other. This argument that if you rely on someone else, you're not a human being. The vast
The
majority of us
point
would not be
is,
considered human beings.
right? We have, let's say I'm born into the world. Let's say I am a newborn, right? The mother doesn't want to take care of it. We have programs, we have people in this world. We have 8 billion people that can take care of that child.
Mhm.
However, that will take care of that child. But if the mother decides that she doesn't want to take care of that child within the womb, it will be unalived. And that's my point, is that the only responsibility when it is inside the womb is up to the mother. So the mother should make the ultimate decision. If it's her responsibility to take care of the child and it's her bodily autonomy and her bodily functions that's keeping it alive, right? And she's the only one that can do it, then she has that right to make that decision over what happens with inside her own body. I mean, I wouldn't tell you you can't make your own medical decisions if it's going to affect you. But
You,
if let's say if it comes out of the womb, then by all means, it shouldn't be it shouldn't be unalive. There should be things that people that there are 100% options for that child to be taken care of.
do you think that women should be able to do drink while they're pregnant?
Do I think they should be able to drink
Yeah,
while they're
legally.
pregnant?
Yeah, they're pregnant. So should they be able to drink
I thought
alcohol?
about it.
Well, it should be an
I
easy.
don't.
It should be an easy answer. I mean, it's her body. She can do whatever she wants to her body, and that person doesn't have any
I
human
said
rights.
I've never thought about it. So like I
Well,
don't think it's
I
an
know, but
issue.
by your logic, you would have to say that she can drink while she's pregnant, and that's
Yeah,
a
I
very
mean
crazy take.
honestly though, no, I mean I do think she does has a right to do that. It's
Wow.
ultimate. It's do I think it's morally wrong if you actually care for the child and you want it to live, then sure. If you want it to have
Hold on,
that
hold on, hold
baby
on.
be born,
Why? Hold on. Why is the morality based off of what the woman wants? If she wants the baby and drinks, it's bad. But if she doesn't want the baby and drinks, it's okay.
because it's all about what the outcome is, right? So if the outcome is like you want this to be a living creature that's going to come out of the womb and be born into this world, and you want it to be a productive, citizen, one day, grow up to be a productive being one day, you shouldn't be drinking while having it. But if you do, it's not. I'm not going to argue against it. I
Yeah,
mean, women do it. Women do it all the time. They smoke, they drink. I mean, pretty sure.
it's a very terrible position to be in, that you're basing the
I don't
baby's
like it.
value based off of what the mother wants, even when it comes to the mother's decisions. Like, even in that situation, it really makes very little sense how you're going to base the morality on whether or not something is wrong based off if the woman wants the baby or plans on keeping the baby or not, when she's drinking or smoking or doing things that harms the fetus.
I
If
don't
the
like
fetus
it.
doesn't have human rights, it shouldn't matter, right?
I don't like that when they do that, especially if
Why
they're
not?
planning on keeping planning on keeping the fetus or the unborn being, because ultimately it could lead like to negative outcomes when it is born, because they do want it to be born. And that's what I'm talking about.
So
When
now
someone
we're
doesn't want
basing
it
it
to
on
be
the future.
born,
We're basing it on whether or not what's going to happen in the future. I would say that taking away the human life that would eventually become a grown human person, that would also be just as immoral, if not more immoral, than drinking while you're pregnant, because then you're harming the future circumstances in which nature is going to naturally have a human being that comes out of the womb. It'd be the same situation. Just because there's health consequences that comes along with it doesn't mean it's going to be worse than having a dead human being.
yeah, the whole point is right is that it's about decisions. It's about free will and allowing. And this is the problem with like Christians, and I'm guessing you're a Christian, is that you don't really you argue for judging people and taking away free will from people, which is against God's word, right? Because I'm arguing for free will, allowing for people to make decisions over their own bodies, like the number one most important thing, regardless. And like, of course, once that baby is its own separate being, it has every right to be whoever it wants to be in the world and to be protected. However, the person who is born comes first. They come first over an unborn child, right? And so that's my argument. And ultimately, why are you trying to not allow people to have free will over their own body,
Well, I mean, every law in the United States and in the world
but
prohibits your
over
free
their
will.
body?
If you hold on, no, it's not their body though. You've accepted this as a separate human being. It's a human being that
No, I
you've
did
already
not.
accepted that. It is. You said
No,
that
I
they're
did
a
not.
human being. They're just not a person. That's your argument, and you can argue
No,
all
I'm
you want. But the
not.
biology is this is a person that should be
I did
given
not accept
human
that.
rights.
I said they're not a human being. They have
You just
human
said 5 minutes
DNA.
ago that they're a human.
I said they have human DNA. They
But
are they are
that's a
they are
different. That's
biologically human, but being human. See, this is a cycle. This is a philosophy standpoint, right? What makes you out to be a human being? Okay, sure, you can have the DNA that is human. Sure, you can be biologically a human, but doesn't mean that you're automatically a human being. There's a difference. Human being versus a human, right? Being biologically human is two different things. I would say that being a human being has to do with your intellect, your consciousness, your
Wow.
sentience, your
That's
every
a
all those aspects. Listen, we do this all the time with vegetables, for example. If they're we know that they're living a life that's not meaningful and not valuable, it's up to the family to keep them around or not, and that's perfectly legal, right? So unless you're advocating for that as well, which I don't see any kind of benefit for that being, right, or that human. I wouldn't consider them a being if they can't even think up a sentence. There's nothing they're not even conscious.
Well, okay. I do want to point out the slippery slope that you're going off of is human being, the human aspect of it, and the person is based off of their consciousness and based off of their, I guess, brain waves. If that's the case, then people that are number one knocked out conscious are no longer human beings and don't get the right. But also, people that are smarter and people have a larger sense of awareness would be considered more human than other people. Do you think that someone that's smarter and has more awareness is more human than you?
Wait. Did you just say someone who gets knocked out?
Yeah, if someone's
So
unconscious,
temporary. Wait a minute. So temporary, like if I go to sleep, you're saying that that's my argument? No,
I think
my
someone
argument
is
doesn't
still
even
still
make any sense.
conscious.
No. You're. That's a temporary state that you're in. It's not
Same
a.
thing with
It's not your.
fetuses. It's the same
If
situation with
you're.
fetuses. They're temporarily not conscious. Eventually, they will become conscious.
That's not necessarily true. If they're
Yes, it
not, and also
is.
they're. Not, it's not. It's not necessarily true. Number one, right? Because they would have to be born for that to happen.
No, they wouldn't. Fetuses
They,
they develop consciousness
they're
before
never
then.
sent. They're never sentient to begin with. They're
Yeah,
never sent. Like
they.
that's a difference.
Do you think that
They
babies
have to be
get sentience
sentient.
right out of the womb?
Not right out the womb, but
When do
a
they
lot
get
of
it?
different things. 2 to 3 years.
You don't think a newborn is sentient?
Not really.
So, okay, so then a 1 year old or a newborn in your own worldview would not have human rights because you just based human rights off of sentience.
No, I base off human rights off of multiple factors, right? So I'm gonna go down what it is to be human, and these all have to fit for you to be like a human being. Like, sure, you can be
Th-
biologically human, right? But human beings are different.
They
There's
all have to fit. Wait, so a human
it's a
being has to fit in all
philosophy.
of these categories.
It's a philosophy point of view, right?
I'm aware.
Philosophical point of view. Um, so we're looking at intelligence, sentience, um, consciousness, and being separate, right? Being your own being, which I already said. A person has to be, which is an individual. A person is an individual. An individual is separate. So they have to be separate. They have to be be able to function as their own unit, right? That doesn't mean that they if people help them, it doesn't mean that they're not a person. That doesn't make any sense. That's the argument you made before. They can get help. However, they are functioning as their own unit, right? And so if we look at all these factors, that's what makes a human being. That's why we don't look at vegetables and say, "Oh gosh, we have to keep them around," because we know they're not an actual human being at that point. They're not having any kind of value of life. We take it away.
All right, so this is the 4 points that you've made: intelligence, conscious,
That has to be
sentience.
all four.
It doesn't have to be all
It has,
four.
yes, it does.
Oh, it
In my
does. Okay,
worldview, let's
then
argue
a
against that.
newborn would not be a human being.
Yeah, that not no, definitely
What?
not. No,
What? A
definitely not.
newborn's not a human being?
Definitely no. I'm not saying that. No, I'm saying definitely not what I'm saying. Sorry, I'm eating while I'm talking to you. No, I'm arguing that, and that's definitely not true. They're intelligent. Babies are intelligent, regardless of whatever you want to say.
Well, that's not what you're saying, though. You made 4 points. They have to fit in all 4 points. They have to be intelligent, which a lot of people are not intelligent, but you could just lower the standard of intelligence, sure. But then you say conscious. Some people are not conscious. Then you list sentience. According to you, newborns aren't sentient, and then separate individual. I don't feel like going down that path, but
I
I've
think I
already
got the
made the
word confused,
case
but
that there's people
they're
that you
not
agree are
conscious.
individuals, but that don't fit all these criteria.
They're not conscious.
They're not conscious
They are sentient, but they're not conscious. That's what I meant.
because you changed it. Okay, so they are sentient then.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, but I misspoke.
Okay,
But
so but they're not
so
conscious though.
they're not conscious because
Then
they're
it'd
not
still be
aware.
the same issue. If they're not
They're not
conscious,
aware.
then they're not
They're
human
not
being.
aware of themselves.
But newborns are not conscious. They're not aware of
I
themselves. Thus,
know
they're not
that.
human
That's what
beings.
I'm arguing. I'm saying
You're
they're
arguing that
intelligent.
newborns are not. I'm so confused. Are you arguing that newborns are or aren't human beings?
I'm saying that they are. However, I'm saying that there's only like certain components that we can take away and say that that's the reality of like their whole being.
I'm just like,
So if we're looking.
I'm just asking though, if they don't fit all of your criteria of human being, why are they still considered a human being?
So for example, I would say for consciousness, if you take a baby, or it actually is, they are conscious in some aspects.
Okay, now they
It's
are
just not
conscious.
as. I'm trying to get you to understand like from a they're conscious, but they're not. It's not to the level of human being, like as a normal adult human being conscious. It's very limited.
Yeah.
But my criteria would ultimately show that in many ways those babies are human beings. They're separate. They're intelligent. They're not intelligent like us, but they started the first phase. They're definitely sentient, right? And conscious is very limited. So
All right. So I do want to point, like, I don't mean to dog on you or like make you look bad or anything, but you went from newborns are not sentient at all to they're
well, I
sentient
did
but
I
kind
did
of
get my
conscious
words mixed up.
to no, they're fully sentient and they're conscious. Like it's okay. We can work with that. So, but you also admit that they're not intelligent. So what's considered intelligent to you?
Intelligence would have to be. I don't know. I mean, that's a difficult question. How to measure intelligence, but intelligence would have to be. I mean, I argue the same thing for animals too. I mean, in many ways, they're on an animalistic level. I argue against that as well. But if anything, if you want to make a comparison to like, let's see how morally like aligned you are, right? Do you believe that animals that are of the same intelligence, of the same sentience, of the same consciousness, do you think they have the same rights?
No. Do you think so?
In many cases, yeah.
So you don't think that like if you're on like let's say you're on an island and I
Because
believe
I
it's
would
the
argue that
elephant.
newborns are on the same level as an animal, right? They if you care, wait, this is where I'm going to point out like a little bit of a discrepancy in your argument, right? You're saying that you don't care, you don't see the other animals or other animals being something that you care about versus human beings, which ultimately, or babies, which ultimately have the same level of consciousness, sentience,
Yeah.
and
So I just want to point out you're
being
I'm not
individual.
I'm not subject to your criteria of what's valuable or not. That's your
Okay,
criteria. I don't believe
what's
intelligence.
valuable to you?
I value human beings. I believe that human beings are should be what we care about the most, not animals. By your logic, the elephant, which is I believe it's considered smarter than human beings, should be treated the same, if not
Elephants are not
better than
smaller than human beings.
elephants are smart. That's what I. If elephants, okay, do you think there's any animal on the planet that's smarter than humans, or do you think humans are the smartest?
I think there are animals that if they had hands, feet, and legs, I mean hands, feet, and able to interact with the world, they would be definitely intelligent.
Why
But
do they have to have
but
hands
they
and
don't,
feet?
because that's what makes us intelligent. If we're not able to like, you don't understand this whole idea of if we're not able to interact with the world, then we're not actually as intelligent as we're
You
supposed to
can
be.
you can interact with a world without having legs and arms. I mean, like, do you think dogs have arms?
I'm talking about hands, like
Yeah, do
interact
they?
with the
They don't
world.
have hands.
We're not,
But they still interact with the world though.
I'm
In fact,
talking
there's
about like
people that don't
being
have
able to
hands.
sculpt. That's literally the argument like made by made by Darwin is that because we have hands, we're able to actually interact and sculpt things in the world. So that's why I'm bringing it up, right?
Do you think
And I
people
think
without
it's
hands are
justified.
valuable?
What about your hat there right now, or your phone, or everything that you own is created because of hands, and we're able to interact with the world and create things because of that.
Yeah,
So
but
my point is that if they did have hands and they were able to interact with the world, then maybe they would be. But the point is, that's not my point. As of right now, human beings are the most intelligent.
okay. So intelligence is what you care about the most, right? If there was an animal that was smarter than humans,
I
should
didn't say
we?
it was. I didn't say that.
Did you not just say humans are? Hold on, what? You just said humans are the
You
smartest, right?
no, I said yes, they are the smartest out of all the animals, but I didn't say that's the number one criteria to be a human being.
That's not what I'm saying either. But I mean, we could go down the hand argument of like if Stephen Hawking can't use his hands, is he really smart? I don't feel like going down that road. But if we're gonna base everything off of intelligence and whether or not we value something or not, then would value adults more than babies because adults are more intelligent than babies.
And by the way, what is a being? Do you know what the definition of a being is?
I used to know what the definition. I forgot what the actual like
It's
definition word for
existence.
word is. Okay, so fetuses exist, so they would be human beings.
No, they don't.
They don't exist. Fetuses don't exist
Not in their own, not from their own point of view, right?
from their
So
own point. Why
if
does
they
that matter?
because that is the number one of importance, right? So like if you like that's why we don't value trees, right? We cut down trees because they are not aware of that they exist.
Okay, so it's awareness rather than actual being, because the argument of being is that it exists, but your argument isn't about being a being, it's about whether or not you're aware of your existence. That's a completely separate issue. You can still argue that you're arguing that human beings are actually human beings. You're arguing that fetuses are human beings. You're just arguing that since they aren't aware that they're human beings, then they don't matter. That's a completely separate argument. Then they're not beings at all.
I'm saying what is it to be existing, right? You have to be aware of your existence in order to exist.
I completely disagree. I mean, by that logic, when you're asleep, you would not exist because you're not aware of it.
Mm-mm, not true at all. Because you are aware that in many cases you are asleep because you chose to go to sleep.
But you're not conscious. Okay, a better example would be you're in a coma. Are you not existing when you're in a coma?
No, it's a permanent state.
Coma is not a permanent state.
Yes, it is. A
It,
coma in many cases, and okay, so if we're talking about one that would justify, if we're talking about one that would justify the unaliving of the vegetable state, yeah, that is a permanent state.
yes,
If we're
but
talking
that's
about
not
a
that's not the
temporary
argument though.
coma,
Your argument is that a being has to be aware that they're a being in order to be a being. And someone that's in a coma is not aware that they're a being, so are people that are in comas, even if they're temporarily in a coma, are
wait
they
a
a
minute, wait a
being?
minute. If you're in a coma, do you have sleep? Do you have dreams?
I'm not. I mean, sometimes maybe. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
you do, right? I mean, if you're in a sleep state, that would require you to have dreams.
Even when you're dreaming,
So
you're not totally aware
you
that you
might, but my
exist.
the
When you're
point is, but
high,
you
when you're
base,
high, you don't know you
but wait a
exist.
minute, wait, let me finish. If you're dreaming, right, you're dreaming about things that you have seen, experienced, have done. That's because you were aware of your world, right? So if you're in a constant state where that's the case, then and you have no ability to come back to the real world and be and exist within the real world, then we ultimately decide that it's better to let them go into the void where they won't suffer or have to be in this constant sleep state. However, if it's the opposite, right, and they do have the chance of coming back, we let them come back, right? And but they are dreaming. They have awareness of the past experiences,
You change the
which would
definition
which
again
would
of being a
which would
being
be exist,
because
which would be
now
an exist, which
it's no longer about whether or not you acknowledge your
it's not black and
existence.
white. I don't think you're trying to define it as black and white. Or how about this? I mean, let me ask you this. This is like a question I have for you, and I wanted to ask you before. Where do children? Oh, where do unborn children go? Do they go to heaven or hell when they're unalived in the womb?
I would say they go to heaven, but there's no scripture that talks about children that whether or not they go to heaven or hell. It's just an assumption that they aren't able to consciously make a decision to get saved or to repent from their sins. And one can also
So if
argue that they don't really
so,
have sin.
so under your worldview, if they are going to heaven, which in the Bible it does say that children are all going to heaven, right?
I'm not sure if it
Um,
says that.
yeah, I mean I can pull it up, but all
Okay.
children are innocent and they go to heaven, right? If that's the case, then why are you unhappy? Like, why are you unhappy with them being sent up and not having the ability to go to hell, right?
Because
Why would
God,
you? If they're going ultimately to paradise, right? They're going to heaven. If they become an adult under your worldview, this, by the way, this is your worldview. Now, I'm not arguing this, but I am saying that this is why your worldview is flawed. If you unalive that unborn child, that fetus, then that child will go to heaven guaranteed. But if you allow it to be born, then it's going to commit sin and potentially go to hell.
okay,
Why
so
would
you,
you statistically? Why would you want that? 100% versus I
because
don't know 50%.
this is why, because well, I wouldn't say it's 50%, but I'd say that God, right, God gave us the ability to make free will. So I'd say in God's nature, he wants us to have the option to determine whether or not we're going to choose him or choose our own, or I guess, sinful lifestyle, right? Why wouldn't God, by that logic, why wouldn't God just send everybody to heaven? Why wouldn't God just kill everybody before they're born or unalive everybody before they're born, right? So they go to heaven. Well, it's because God actually has the intention of letting us have that choice. You talk about being pro-choice. Yeah, God allows us to have free will. God allows us to make that decision. Now, whether or not it should be moral to send everyone to heaven by taking away their option of going to hell, I wouldn't say that's the most moral option because that's out of God's intention.
But it's not if it's a rule within the world he created. Like, okay, he made this rule, right? He defined this rule. He said, "I am going to allow for all children to go to heaven," and that means unborn children in your worldview. So if they are getting unalive, right? If they're getting aborted, and they're getting sent up to paradise, then that would be a better outcome overall, right, than going to hell. So explain to me how going to hell would be better.
It'd be the same situation. I'm not saying that going to hell would be better than going to heaven. It would be the same
So
situation
it's
of
100%.
God's. I'm not arguing that going to hell is worse, or I'm not saying that. I'm saying that God
What's
gave
what's
us the
what's
free.
better, 100% or
Oh my
50-50? Let's say it's
gosh.
50-50.
Okay, 100%. It's better for you to go to heaven than it is to go to hell. But God says, I'm going to give everyone the decision to go to heaven or hell. Right? You can argue against whether or not God is moral or God's immoral because he doesn't send us all to heaven or he doesn't just unalive us all as babies so we don't have the option to go to hell. What God's intention
Wait, but
is to
why even
allow
exist? Wait, wait,
us.
wait. But why not do this? How about this? How about you are a sinful person, right? Everybody is sinful. How
Hmm.
about this? If we are sinful and God has set rules where innocent children are to a certain age, like 8 years old, let's say, are able to go to heaven. If that's the case, why under your worldview just unaliving each other at 8 years old and going to heaven right away?
Yeah, because he wants to give us the decision. He wants to give us the ability to choose him. Or it
Well, he
goes
did
back to the
not,
hold on,
because
hold
at
on.
8 years
It
old,
gives
wait, wait, wait,
us
wait, wait.
it
This is
gives
a
us it
legal.
goes
This is
back
a
to that
thought.
argument that atheists have made for so long. If God is so good, why do bad things happen? Why doesn't God just send us all to heaven and none of us go to hell? It's because God gave us the option, right? He's good. Everything else going against God, going down the other road is bad. God says, okay, you can live for me or you can live for the world. Okay, he wants us to have that decision, right? And why would God like it's really like why doesn't God just make us all robots and zombies that follow him endlessly and we can just all go to heaven? Like I don't know why God decided to make us like this. I'm not sure why God allows us to have this free will, but he did. I mean, why does God not want a bunch of zombies to go to heaven? I don't know. Okay, but that's
So,
essentially what
so,
the
so,
argument goes back
so
down to.
it just, well, obviously, right? There's an issue there with like, your whole worldview being like making sense. There's some sort of logical fallacy. If God is wants us to live, why, or wants us to have free will and wants us to make the decision of going to heaven, why not just say, we should unalive ourselves or each other and guarantee go to heaven where we can spend time in paradise with him?
I don't know why God didn't make a bunch of
I,
zombies
I,
that
I
follow
and
him
someone's
endlessly.
yeah. By that logic, there should be no murder laws. Yeah,
No,
under
we aren't
your
supposed to. Hold
worldview.
on.
But under
No,
your
under my
worldview, there
worldview,
should
there
be
is
no
no.
murder law.
What are you talking about? God punishes those that do wrong. So should the government. The government should also punish those that do wrong.
Not if that child is going to paradise, right? I mean, that child's going to paradise. Someone's winning.
Okay, like what is
So
your
they're
your logic
guaranteed
here? Your
they're
argument is like I'm
guaranteed
not sure if
going
you're
to
arguing
heaven.
whether or not like we should just unalive a bunch of kids or the government shouldn't have any role in murder. I'm getting two different points here. If your argument is that God allows free will, so should the government. No, I don't believe we should have an anarchy because God allows us to do bad things. Okay, the government should still be some sort of logical
It's
role.
not anarchy if the incentive is that we should unalive ourselves or each other at 8 years old and go to heaven guaranteed versus okay, I become an adult and then I have the free will of committing sin. Is sin bad?
Sure.
Okay, so sin's bad, right? And after a certain age, I pass that and then I could commit sin and then go to hell. Which one's better? Being always pure and innocent and going to paradise, or going to becoming an adult, committing sin, and then maybe not never seeing God and then going to hell?
Wait, are you asking specifically about the outcome of whether it's better to go to heaven or hell? Or are you asking about whether or not it's
I'm asking
God's
I'm
will
asking
of us to have the decision to choose him or choose the world?
I'm asking. Well, you can. I mean, you can do both, but yeah, sure. One, you can just do the first one first,
Okay,
I
I would
guess.
say that it's better to go to heaven than it is to go to hell. But God's intention is to allow us to make the decision to choose him or to choose the world. And again, I don't know how we went off this crazy ramp. The original argument was
It's not
about
crazy.
abortion.
It's kind of
It's
showing like your
completely
whole
irrelevant to
philosophy.
what we were initially talking about.
It is pretty relevant. You know why? Do you know why?
Because if babies are unalived, then they go to heaven or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they go 100% to heaven.
So why don't we just unalive everybody that's under the age of 8 or whatever age you decided
I,
to make
I
it
I don't believe in that demonic stuff. I don't believe in Christianity.
demonic?
So yeah, so
Demonic.
don't worry.
Babies going to
I
heaven is demonic. You're right.
I think that allowing for people to live and allow them to exist and not be forced to just because they commit sin or whatever and they have to accept God or this idea of God making them automatically go to heaven. I don't think that's the best way to do it. I think we should incentivize people to want to live. Your religion is incentivizing people not to live by 8 years old, let's say, for example, if you're a child.
Have you ever
um,
read the
then
Bible? The
you
entire
then you're
Bible is about
100% going to
how
go to
you
heaven.
walk your spiritual life. It's about how you eventually get married and how to live your life, what's your role in the church, right? There's so many things the Bible is incentivizing for you to continue to live. Nowhere in the Bible doesn't incentivize you to unalive yourself right before you get to the age of accountability where you recognize and consciously understand what sin is. Okay? I mean, that's not what the Bible incentivizes at all. That's what you incentivize. That's what you think would be the best outcome. Okay, and I do want to point out, if you think Christianity is demonic, let me paint two pictures here. The belief system, just tell me which one you think is more demonic. The belief system that God loves us so much that he sent his only son to die on the cross for our sins because we decided to rebel against God. And he's done everything in his power to allow us to go to heaven. Or the belief system that we should be able to unalive human beings simply because they're in the wrong location and they're not nearly as conscious as you are. Which one is more demonic to you? All right, he just stopped talking. I didn't know if he was still talking or what happened. Next guess. What's up? Can I
What's
have your
up?
age for TikTok purposes?
25.
All right, what do you want to talk about?
Why I don't support Trump.
Oh, why I support Trump? Okay, well, I mean, I could tell you why I support Trump, but then I could also, I guess, I'll ask you why you don't support Trump. So, I guess my main three policies, specifically like legislative policies, would be like foreign policy, criminal policy, and economic policy. And then there's obviously other things that Trump supports that are, I guess, more right leaning and conservative that I would say are indications of why I should support that guy over Kamala Harris.
Right. Well, I mean, I feel like out of those three you gave, he's doing awful. I mean, he's threatening to annex our allies and tariff them. And then on legality, like he's pardoning criminals and then is breaking the law constantly himself, like with the Epstein Transparency Act, pardoning the ex-Honduras president, just so many things. And affordability, like we see how that's going right now.
Well, the inflation rate before the Iranian war was lower than it was in 2024. So the entire idea of affordability and gas prices and all that just goes back to the Iran war. And then it would go back to whether or not the war is justified. Now, when we're talking about criminal policy, I'd say the criminal policy that I support is having the largest decrease in H-sides and crime in American history. And we see right now it's the lowest rate that's been since 1900. So criminal policy has been, you'd have to admit that Trump has handled crime very well over the past year during his second administration. We've seen mass deportation of criminals. We saw the National Guard come into cities and arrest people. A criminal policy, sure, you can argue, oh, he is giving people from January 6th money because they were charged unnecessarily or whatever. I don't care. Trump is doing a very good job at lowering crime right now. That is like an objective fact that you really could not argue against. Now, then I'd say economics policy. I'd say the One Big Beautiful Bill would be a very good piece of legislation in lowering our taxes. And if you talk about affordability, I'd say that one of the key aspects of affordability is having less money taken away from you from the federal government.
Right. No, I don't know. I think like to me the results speak volumes. Like he's pardoning all these criminals. He keeps breaking the law, dismissing judges' orders. So I don't think that's very much following the law.
So your argument is about him not following federal orders. Can you give me like an
Yeah, and
example of like
pardoning criminals, you know.
parting? Okay, which criminals? I heard that one of the January Sixers was found with cheese pizza on his phone after. I don't know. Uh,
Oh, there's been a couple. But he
yeah,
also pardoned, like, for example, the ex-Honduras president who smuggled over 400 million tons of sea drug into the US.
I don't know enough about that situation. There's been people that he's pardoned that are, I guess, criminals or whatever. But there's also been previous presidents that have also pardoned criminals. People, I mean, if you're arguing that the president shouldn't have the legal authority to pardon people, right? What he's doing right now isn't illegal. He has the legal authority to do that. So what he's doing isn't actually illegal.
Right, but that doesn't make it morally right. Or
It's just about
like,
morals. Okay,
or
my
like, I don't know. To me, like saying other people have done it isn't really a good argument. That doesn't really erase or justify what he's doing.
Well, sure, but I'm saying that if you think that it's wrong, then sure, you could just argue that presidents shouldn't be able to do that. But what he's doing is legal. Your argument that he's breaking the law by doing this isn't actually an argument because he's doing it illegal and through a legal way. Now, about the defying federal court orders, I don't know enough about it. I will say that a lot of these federal courts are really, really silly. And the fact that we had to bring back what was his name? Kilmar Garcia, a gang criminal, an MS-13 gang member. Yeah, I don't think that we should have brought him back. I think we should have let him stay deported. I don't even
Well,
care
that's
that the
kind
federal
of
court said that. Like that guy shouldn't have come back to the United States, but Trump followed that order, and sadly, he came back to the United States.
that's actually a good example of him dismissing court orders. But how about like, for example, the Epstein
All of it.
Transparency Act,
Yeah,
which
Trump.
he's violating?
Trump has pushed that. I mean, he's not in charge of that specific. You're talking about, I guess, Cash Patel not doing a good enough job.
His
At
DOJ is right. Who's their boss?
the DOJ. What was?
Who who
Well, I mean, Cash
appointed those
Patel.
guys?
Huh?
Who appointed those guys and who's their
Oh,
boss?
Trump appointed them, but that wouldn't actually be an argument that Trump is doing anything wrong. If your argument is that they're not doing enough or that they're not actually following the Epstein Transparency Act, it would go back to Cash Patel. It would go back. Was it Todd Blanche, the new director of?
Who's part of whose administration? Remind
It would
me.
be the Trump administration. But if your argument is that
Right.
if every single crime that the executive branch commits goes back to President Trump, you're holding the president to a pretty unnecessarily high and unrealistically high standard.
Their
Like Trump,
boss.
in fact, Trump is yeah. If Trump is removing people like Tulsi Gabbard, right? If he's removing people all across the executive branch and replacing them, that would just be an example of Trump actually replacing the people that aren't doing a good enough job. So, yeah, sure, if Trump was just holding these people and like Pam Bondi, and she wasn't doing a good enough job, then sure, you could just blame Trump on that. But he's replacing these people, right? So the argument doesn't really work.
But I mean, the people he replaces him with are also violating the act. So the Epstein Transparency Act also cites the whole Trump administration, not just Cash, not just Pam Bondi, but the whole administration. And I mean, look at Todd Blanche, who he replaced Pam Bondi with. Now, he's come out and said recently that they're done releasing any more files and they're moving on, quote. But again, that's violating the act. Like, so even his replacements are violating the rules. I don't
So what
see that
specifically is he
argument.
violating? How is he violating it?
So the Epstein Transparency Act requires by law that the Trump administration release all 6 million files and explain any redactions. That would be, stuff that can't be seen obviously by the public, like pictures or videos, maybe victims' names to protect them. But they actually violated that too by releasing victims' names. So they messed that up and then redacting them again. But yeah, they failed to do that. The deadlines have come and passed, and now his AG is saying they're done releasing anymore, again violating the act. They're literally illegally protecting child trafficking PDFs, and I don't see how that's not a red line for Trump supporters.
How many files have been released so far? Then
I think it was like 3 million or 3.5 million, something like that.
yeah, so 3.5 million, and they were supposed to release how many? 6 million.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so I don't know enough about the situation. I'd say that we just have to wait it out. Sure, Todd Blanche can say that we aren't releasing anymore. Again, we just have to wait. The idea that Trump isn't being a transparent president, I don't really understand that. I mean, Trump has been way more transparent than previous president when it comes to specifically the Epstein Transparency Act. He was the one that pushed for this piece of legislation to be signed because he saw he was losing support within the base, right? I don't understand why we weren't holding President Biden to the same standard of we need to see this. These people are trafficking children. We've got to see who's doing it. We've got to see these big names and these celebrities. No one was saying that except like I don't know Alex Jones and a few Republicans under the Biden administration. Trump comes in, he declassifies 3.5 million files compared to zero under the Biden administration. He hasn't declassified enough. Sure, I don't know enough about the situation. I guess we'll just have to see whether or not they'll continue to declassify because obviously the executive branch has been very wishy-washy on what they say. The cabinet, I think Marco Rubio that said that there weren't any nuclear stockpiles or Iran wasn't building any nuclear stockpiles. Yeah, they're going back and forth on what's true, what's not. I don't know. I don't know the actual insider information and what's going on, but I just say we have to wait to see what actually happens.
See, isn't that a sign of not being transparent though? Because I mean, the administration goes from last year to saying they're ready on our desk to be released, and they do that whole photo op with the binders and all that. To now, Todd Blanche makes a definitive, we're not releasing anymore, or we don't plan to release anymore, and we want to move on.
Well, they
Again, violating
they
that
did
act.
declassify files. They declassified 3.5 million files.
But not all of them. The Transparency Act required them to declassify everything,
Well, when we're talking about
and they have
specifically
failed to
whether or
do
not they're
so.
being transparent enough, because they went from oh we're going to release all of them to or we're going to release all these files to oh we're not going to release all 6 million files. They're still releasing way more than other presidents. So yeah, that would be significantly more transparent than the Biden administration.
Well, no, because they're violating the act. Like, why not just release them all? Even the victims have come out recently, actually, like yesterday, they came out against Todd Blanche's statements. They've come out and said they want Trump to release him. So, like, what's he protecting, especially when the law requires him to? And he hasn't been the most transparent. The only reason he passed it is when Congress voted on it and it became unvetoable. Up before that, he was literally saying any Republican who votes to release the files is an enemy of the administration. Like,
Hold on? Do you think that if Trump said don't release the Epstein files, that they would have been still released they still would have released them, or they would have still passed the Epstein Transparency Act?
well, I mean, he was basically forced to release them.
How was
Again,
he
when it
forced
became
to?
when it became unvetoable, he couldn't do anything about it.
But it doesn't matter
Like, he
though.
would have looked so bad.
He's control over the majority of the House. So like if he wanted to, or in the Senate, if he wanted to, he could have just said, okay, well, let's not pass it. Let's just tell all the Republicans and everybody except like
Well, I
Thomas
mean,
Massey would have just not passed it, and it would have been
that's what he
shot
was
down.
doing. He was
Yes, and then
literally saying
he's
to
like, okay, I got to
anyone who
release it.
votes to release him. He was literally telling Republicans in Congress that any Republican that votes to release him is considered an enemy of the administration. He called it a Democratic hoax at one point. Like, what are you talking about? He was fighting tooth and nail to not
Yes,
release him
and
up
then he
until it became
realized,
like
hold on,
forced on him.
this would actually just prove that he has transparency because after after they found out that okay, that most of MAGA, most of his base actually does want the release of the Epstein files. He's like, okay, let's change it, let's release him since everyone wants to see him so bad. Okay, that only proved that he's transparent to the American people and what they want to see, he's going to show them. So I
But
don't really
has he?
get that. Yes, you released millions of files.
Has he released what the law requires him to?
Not yet, no. But sure, there's a lot
But
of crazy stuff that
has his AG not made a definitive statement recently that they're done releasing anymore and don't plan to
I
release
mean,
anymore in the
we'll
future?
see. We'll
And they
see what
want to
actually
move on.
happens. We'll see
But
what
you can't
actually
acknowledge
happens.
that's their latest stance on it.
Yeah, I don't know what's actually going to happen. We'll have to wait and see whether or not they're actually going to release it. Because again, we've seen
Like
the
that doesn't
executive
sound
branch.
very
We went from
transparent, does
we went
it?
from Cash Patel saying that there is no list. Pam Bondi might have said the same thing. There are no more files or whatever. So now there are files. So they're releasing it. Maybe what's going on in the department is like there's a lot of confusion going on. Maybe there's a lot of things that we don't know about. Maybe there's a lot of, and let's be honest, there might be people that are being threatened, maybe not by the Trump administration, maybe not by anybody we know, but maybe by people behind the scenes. I've always been kind of skeptical if there's these big names, these big powerful people that are in the files. Sure, they might actually be holding these people hostage. Like they might actually be paying people to not release the files. That's another thing you kind of need to take into consideration.
Right, but I don't know. I think it's the very opposite of transparent when like the law requires them to release him and then they make definitive statements saying, "Well, as of right now, we don't plan to release anymore." Like that's not very. They didn't say like, "We'll see what happens in the future" or "follow the law." They waited up till Congress forced them to sign that Transparency Act when it became unvetoable. Before that, they were fighting tooth and nail. I don't know. I think to me that's not transparent
All right.
at all.
Do you have any other arguments against Trump besides him not releasing enough files?
Well, this one's more. I know with that last guest, I know he left, but you were quoting like the Bible. So how, like, as a Christian, do you support Trump? I mean, he literally depicted himself as Jesus, committed blasphemy to troll the Pope on Truth
Yeah,
Social.
I don't support that. But again, I'd say that he was a better option than the other one.
Isn't like blasphemy an unforgivable sin
Yeah, I
in
wouldn't
the
say
faith?
what we Christians believe blasphemy is. It isn't saying like, "Oh, I'm God," okay, and then God's not going to let you into heaven. Blasphemy would actually be rejection of the Holy Spirit. That's what most Christians are taught in church. Is that blasphemy isn't necessarily like because I mean you could probably look towards people in the Bible that have mocked God before. They'll be considered blasphemous. Like Peter, for example, he mocked Jesus Christ, but he was still able to become forgiven of his sins. So the idea of mocking God or be acting like you are God, that wouldn't be considered blasphemy.
I don't know. I just think it's weird. I almost feel like a lot of people call you guys a cult, and I kind of do agree with that because it's like to me, you guys put him disrespecting your faith. It's almost like you're putting Trump before your own faith. That's not a red line
Not,
somehow.
not if we're criticizing
Protecting
him. I mean, if hold on,
protecting
if it's a
child
cult, then why did the
traffickers isn't a
entire
red
group,
line
why did his
somehow.
entire base criticize him for posting it? Most cults wouldn't do that.
Did they?
Yes, look towards any major Republican influencer or conservative influencer. Literally everybody, from Ben Shapiro
But
to Michael
do they
Knowles
still
to
support
Matt
him?
Walsh. Well, they still support him over the other options, sure, but I don't think that Trump
Right.
posting that image would necessarily mean he's a worse candidate than the one that supports abortion or the one
But
that has other terrible policies.
to me, supporting that is kind of putting Trump over your faith. And I mean, that's not even the only example. We can look at the fact that, like, he sold a rebranded Bible with his name on the cover on the White House website after refusing to swear on a Bible, like
He
cheating on all his
refused to swear
wives.
on a
That's not
Bible.
very Christian.
What are you talking? Did you watch the inauguration?
I know in like I think what maybe it was his first run. I know for
The,
one of them he refused to swear on a Bible
the
though.
first one he did, and the second one, the person that was supposed to bring the Bible out was like late before they actually started the pledge or like the I do solemnly
Right.
swear. So like it wasn't that he refused to; it was the person that brought the Bible over was just wasn't there. So he
Well, and then
did
he
swear
had
on the
that
Bible.
Then he had that photo up where he held the Bible upside down. There's interviews where people ask him what your favorite
What?
Bible verse is, and he can't name a single one. I mean, again, he cheats on all his wives.
Yeah, again, I
Like
don't support.
this isn't a very
I don't
Christian
support
guy.
everything
I
this
don't
guy
get it.
does. You're just proving my point that most people that support Trump, the vast majority of people that support Trump, don't support everything he does. We support him over Kamala Harris because, from a Christian standpoint, Kamala Harris said she wanted to overturn Roe v. Wade. She actually supported abortion. She was pro-choice. That'd be the biggest argument. From a Christian standpoint, you can't support someone that supports the mass unaliving of human beings inside the womb,
But
along
see,
with pride.
I'm kind of
Pride's
talking
also a pretty
post
big
Kamala,
sin.
right?
Hmm?
Because all this has happened post Kamala.
Yes,
So
and
like,
would
I don't understand. Like, you can be a Republican without supporting Trump, right?
you can also no, I would say that sure, I'm not a Republican though, but I would say that when there's two options and one's a lot worse than the other, the best option would be the one that's less bad. Would you not agree?
Okay, no, yeah, agreed. But okay, like again, post Kamala,
Exactly.
right? Like to me, she's irrelevant right now. Like, because I think you're kind of proving my point that you guys put like Trump before your own faith, your own morals. I mean, like
How?
look at the 2 points I brought up.
Wait,
To me, it looks like what's not a red line for you guys is Trump blaspheming and disrespecting your own Bible
how do you
and
address that?
defending child trafficking PDFs against the law.
How do you
Like
address
how
that?
are either of those not red lines for you guys?
Okay, and you already acknowledged that you have to support the worst, the least bad candidate. Okay, you acknowledged that
No, no,
already.
I said like post Kamala though. Like take
Post
all
Kamala,
that out.
okay. Still, I would still determining on whether or not I support Trump would be going back to the election. Would I still vote for him? That's what supporting him means. Was he the better candidate? That's what supporting means.
But how about after that? Like to me, that's irrelevant because all this stuff happened. Like Kamala's irrelevant right now, right? She
I mean,
lost.
yeah, I mean she could come back, but that's
So
irrelevant.
like I
I'm
don't know.
just
It is weird to me. Like that's no longer the case, and like to me, you're still putting Trump over
if I'm
like
putting Trump before my
common
faith,
sense
then why do
stuff.
I criticize Trump so much?
But why do you support him?
Because he's the least bad candidate. I've already answered that question.
No, but post the election, like
When I
again,
determine
you can be Republican and not support
you
Trump.
could also be a Trump supporter that's not a Republican, but when determining whether or not you support a candidate would mean if you could go back to the election, would you still vote for that person? I would say I'd still vote for Trump just because he would be the better candidate. That's where my support comes from. If there's a better candidate, and this was my initial reaction, I thought that Vivek Ramaswamy was a better candidate. I thought Vivek Ramaswamy should have been the Republican nominee. If it was Trump versus Vivek Ramaswamy, he like ran as a Democrat or whatever, I would not support Trump because I think Vivek would be a better option.
So like your only basis of support is literally just whoever's the better option, even though
Yes.
he
That's
again
literally what support
disrespects your
means. Yes.
faith and protects PDFs illegally.
Hold on. Do you think Kamala Harris protected PDFs?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I haven't even brought up Kamala once, right?
You just did.
I was responding to you though.
Yes.
You
The
brought it
reason I
up. I
brought her
never
up.
once said I supported Kamala, by the way.
Yes, but I mean, this is why it comes down to you have to support the least bad candidate. I support Trump because the option was either him or Kamala. Determining on whether
Okay,
or not I
but
support, I'm being very logical here. Determining on whether or not I support someone would mean would I go back and vote for that person? If you still would go back and vote for that person, you'd still support that person. That's what supporting means. It means that they're the
but
better option, the alternative.
I'm just saying that's kind of a dumb basis for support because after the election, like, who cares? Like, you know what I mean? All this stuff happened post election. Screw who's a better option then. Then it
You,
becomes, do you
I,
still support this guy?
it does matter. You're voting to
Does
determine
it?
whether or not the future will be a better outcome. So when the future comes, if I withdraw my support of Trump and say, okay, Kamala was the better option, then that's what I'm doing. I'm saying I'm withdrawing my support from him because he was the least qualified candidate. He was a worse candidate. So I'm just curious, like if you think that Trump wouldn't have been a better candidate, then why wouldn't you just say that Kamala Harris would be a better president? Thus, you should support her. Like, if you think someone is a better candidate, you would support them. That's what support means, and that's what I'm talking about right now. Is Trump was a better president? He's a better president than what Kamala Harris would have been. That's where my support comes from.
But I don't know. I think that's very small-minded. Like it's it's weird. It's like, oh, I support the current person because the person they lost to was a worst option. That therefore I have to support everything Trump does now. I don't that doesn't make sense to me.
You don't have to do that. You don't have to support everything Trump has done. That's just misrepresenting what MAGA is. Most people from MAGA, I would say probably everybody except a very small group of people actually support everything Trump does. Like the vast majority of people criticize Trump on a regular basis. Unlike previous presidents, unlike previous administrations and previous parties, Trump is criticized by his base a lot more than any other president has ever been.
But that kind of goes back to my red line argument. Like, where do you guys draw the line with that? Because if, like, protecting PDFs, human trafficking PDFs, and disrespecting your own faith to your face constantly isn't a red line, like, do you guys have a red line?
Well,
Then you guys wonder why you get called a cult? I mean, you're wearing the
protecting
merch.
yeah, protecting PDFs. It's to get people on. Protecting PDFs means not releasing any files. That would mean that Trump is actually doing less protecting. He would be protecting children more than Kamala Harris was because he's had more transparency with the Epstein Transparency Act. He's released way more files than what
The
Kamala Harris had under
Transparency
that
Act didn't exist
administration.
till after the election.
The what? The Epstein files didn't exist until after the
No, the
election?
Transparency Act.
Yes, Trump
Yes.
got that legislation signed. He told Republicans
When
in
was it
Congress.
signed, though?
President Biden could
When
have
it
done the
became
exact same
unvetoable,
thing.
right?
Yes, he told them he supported the bill. He told Republicans to support the bill.
No.
If it was between Republicans and Democrats, right? It was between President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. Who do you think would have, looking at history right now, the most success in releasing Epstein files? Would it be Trump or Kamala?
Democrats, actually, when it's not forced. And by the way, they were under court ordered sealed up until 2025.
Yes, so then why were y'all asking to release the files if he couldn't release the files until
No, up
2025?
until 2025. After he
Yes,
won, they
it,
became
it was
able to
sometime
be
in like
released because they
August.
were in an investigation.
Yes, so you're
And
talking.
besides, like, let's look at the past, right? Who released all the files prior to that, even though like it would have gone against that investigation and then being court ordered sealed? It was the Democrats. They released the flight logs. They released all that. And that
Those were
wasn't.
like
And guess
leaks.
what? That happened without Congress forcing the president to vote when he couldn't do anything about it.
The Biden administration didn't release any files at all, and there were no files whatsoever that were
The
released when
flight
Kamala
logs.
Harris. Yeah, those were leaks. Were
The
they not
Democrats were
leaks? Those were literally like
by who?
nowhere did Biden say, "Okay, let's release these files," or Kamala Harris say, "Okay, let's
But
release
it
these
was it was
files."
no. I never said Biden, but it was Democrats, right?
Sure, but we're talking about Kamala versus Trump here.
Right.
Okay, we're gonna make it a party thing. Then why don't I just go back and find terrible things about the Democratic Party and compare it to the Republican Party? That's why we don't make it a party issue. We make it a candidate issue.
Well, I mean, I'm just like we're talking about the files, right? And it applies to Trump because he's
Yeah,
the one in charge of releasing files and breaking the law to not release them.
but
And
he
again, they
really
were under court sealed up until 2025. And even then, Democrats released most of the files, even though it would have violated that whole investigation thing,
no
like the flight
Republicans.
logs.
Trump released way more files than the previous president. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but why? Because it was forced on him.
No, it's because
Basically,
no
when it
Trump.
became
You realize
unvetoable,
Trump could have said,
like
"Okay,
he couldn't do
Republicans,
anything
vote
about it.
against this bill," and they would have voted against the bill, and the bill wouldn't have been passed. Like Trump had
He
the
did say that.
option. Yeah, no, they passed. He passed it. What are you talking about? He told them to pass it. Trump
Yeah,
had a
but
very
when did
easy
he
option.
pass it?
He
That's
could
what
have
you're
said,
not
"Okay, let's
getting.
not release it. Let's not release the files." And
He
he could have
did
done
say
that,
that, bro.
and he would have gotten his
Did
way.
we already went over this? Like he literally told Republicans in Congress, any Republican who votes to release this is considered an enemy of the administration. And then once Congress passed the Epstein Transparency Act, that's when he signed it, but only because he was forced to. He had
He
no
was
other
not
choice,
forced to.
basically.
Was
Yes,
he
it
forced
became
by his base? Was he
unvetoable.
forced by his supporters?
Well, it was mostly Democrats, since most Republicans voted to not release. Unsurprising.
Since when did Trump care about what Democrats supported?
Well, see, that's kind of my point. When Congress forces it on you, you have no choice, and he's violating that. He's literally violating the law
He
to not release
he
files.
saw the base. He saw America want these files so desperately They was like, okay, let's release it. What he said previously doesn't matter because he changed his mind and then released it. Trump had the option.
But he
He could have
didn't.
said, and you, by the way, Republicans, they had the majority in the House and the Senate. Trump could have said, all right, Republicans, do not vote for this bill. And they would have never voted for it. But he said, okay, let's vote for it. Let's support this bill so America is happy. He did
But
so, right?
okay,
Did he not do
but how?
that? Did he
What
not
was he
command
saying? What was
Congress to
he?
vote
What
for
was
it?
he saying before that?
Does it matter?
Yes,
How does it
because
matter?
okay, because look, he only said, "Hey, Republicans, vote on it when it became unvetoable to look good."
No,
Basically, when he
he
was
could have.
forced and
It
had
doesn't
no
matter if he could veto it
choice.
or not.
Do you not
The vetoing
understand
doesn't
that?
matter. He could have still shot
What
down the
was he
bill
saying
through
before that?
Republicans.
He was calling it a hoax. He was saying any Republican who votes to release him is an enemy of the administration. And then when he had no choice and couldn't do anything about it, that's when he was like, "Oh, never mind. Let's release him. Let's pretend to be transparent." Even though I was fighting tooth and nail before this to release him, but now that it's unvetoable on my desk, oh yeah, let's release him so I get some PR here. Like no.
You're not
And then
understanding though. Like
okay,
whether or
second
not it's
question.
vetoable is
After
irrelevant.
all that, has he released them? Even though the law requires him
Yes,
to?
he's released
No.
3.5 million files. Yes, he's released a ton of files,
Right.
but
And
that
what did
doesn't
the
matter
Innocent
though.
Transparency
Let's
Act
look at the actual.
require?
Hold on. You
All of
keep
them,
talking about
right?
Trump said this, Trump said that. Once it became unvetoable, that's when he supported the bill. Trump could have still indirectly
Yes.
vetoed the bill by just telling Republicans to shoot down the bill. The reason he supported the bill is because his base told him to. That would not be the sign of a cult. That would be the opposite. That would be a sign of a
Well,
representative
no,
that does what his
because want to know
constituents
what he
support
did?
him.
He wanted to get some PR points and like salvage
Exactly.
whatever good
That's
looks he
what
can
Congress
get.
is. That's what presidency is.
No, but
That's what
listen,
representatives
but
do.
listen, you know what he was
Supporting what
gonna
the
do?
constituents want
You
them
know what
to.
he was gonna do, which is what he's doing now, is not release him, which he hasn't.
He
He's literally
has.
breaking the law. Like we're sitting here talking, he said this,
All right,
but in
we're
the
going in
end,
circles, dude.
actions,
We got to
right?
move
So
on. We're
has he
literally
released
going in
them?
circles.
What
Yes,
did
he's
the Essence
released 3.5
Transparency Act
million
require? All
files.
6 million, right?
Well, he can't release all of them. He can't release all the
Yes, he's
files.
required to by law. He's supposed to.
He can't release and declassify every single file because that would mean
Literally, he's
child
supposed
abuse
to.
material. That would
Bro,
mean
again,
victim
that's in the
names, which of
Transparency
course
Act
you
if
don't
you read it. All
support.
that would be censored and redacted.
So then that wouldn't be declassified. If it's redacted, it would still be classified.
No, like they could release. So this is how it works. They would release the files, and all that stuff would be blurred and like blackbarred.
They've done
You
that.
realize that, right?
They've done that.
No, they haven't, because they're
They
required to
have.
release 6 million.
Yeah, I don't know if they can. I don't really see the point in them releasing an entire image if it's entirely blacked out. Like, what's the point in that?
All the info. Like you realize it's not just pictures, right? It's got like dates on there, info.
Yeah, again,
Like, bro, again,
we
the law
just.
requires him to release all the files. The Transparency Act explains that they would, block out and censor out anything. Like, they're not going to release videos to the public. You really think that's what would happen? No. The Epstein
Seems what the
Transparency Act
Democrats are begging to
addresses that. They
see.
would black bar it, they would censor it, but they're still required to release them, and they're not.
All right, we're going in
Bro, like,
circles. We're
what
not
are they
getting
so scared
anywhere.
of? And you
This
know what's
is
funny? Bro, and Trump, you know what's funny? Trump could have released them without Congress. You realize that, right? He could have done
sure.
this long ago when he said they were ready on his desk to be released, when they did their little photo op with the binders. He didn't have to force
No, we
Congress to
couldn't.
force a vote on him. The president
When
can
that image
forego
was
Congress and
taken,
release him.
when
Did he? No.
when that
Has
image
he
was taken,
still?
that was before
No.
the court case ended. By your own logic, he couldn't have declassified him then. He declassified him like 2 months after the court case ended.
What, bro? Like this is after they became like not court ordered sealed, like when they were open.
Yes, when was that? When was that case ended? You said in 2025. What month?
I don't know. I don't know the specific month,
It was like
but I know it's
August, and then he
2025.
released it in like November. It was not that long after he could have released it that he did release them.
No, he didn't. Again, only 3.5. They're
Oh my,
required to
dude,
release all of them.
we're going in
Like
circles.
what is he hiding, bro?
Abuse material, victims' names, like you were
No,
just complaining
again,
about
the
it.
Transparency Act, you're
Again,
ignoring the fact that they would have to block all that out.
okay, we're not getting anywhere. I'm gonna let somebody else up. We're just gonna go in circles over and over. Oh, this person I genuinely, absolutely
Finally.
destroyed yesterday, like embarrassed. And then she comes in and starts DMing
Can
me
you
about,
hear me?
oh, I destroyed you. I destroyed you. Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, I literally my screen went black, but I can still hear you, so it's fine. Um, so Like, what's your point? Like, why do you like Trump?
I already
I know
explained
we
it to
talked
you.
about this yesterday. I know, but you can't even give me a good domestic, foreign or domestic policy that was actually good,
I gave
or
you one for each of
a
those.
piece of his character.
I answered every
But
single
you
one of those
didn't.
yesterday. Yeah,
But you
for foreign
didn't.
policy, I would say he ended numerous wars. For economic or domestic policy, it'd be the one big beautiful bill, and his
Started one.
character would be his leadership.
Started one.
More than one. Okay, you
He
want more?
started
Okay,
one.
yeah, I gave you more than one. I said he ended the war between Thailand and Cambodia and the war between Armenia and Azerbaijan and India and Pakistan. For criminal policy, we could talk about mass deportation and also sending in the National Guard. And for domestic policy, we could talk about the one big beautiful bill where he lowered taxes for everyone across the board. Do you need another domestic policy? Would that be
Oh, what
necessary
did
for you
I?
to
What
support
did
him?
I?
We could
What
talk
did
about
I?
tariffs.
You're funny. You keep bringing up the big beautiful bill as if it didn't literally cut Medicare and cut the amount of money that people are getting in their SNAP benefits, and then you're like, oh well,
Oh my gosh, I
they're
already
abusing the
addressed
system or
this.
they don't need it.
I didn't make that claim.
Okay, so we can address something else. You want to talk about abortion? Let's talk about abortion.
Okay, I'll cook you on this one too, just like I cooked you on every single other point that you made
Okay,
yesterday.
you didn't though. You support a man who was in the files 38,000 times, and that's what, only half of them? If they only released this half,
Half of them? What?
God can imagine what's in the other half.
No, that was not half of them. There's 3.5 million. 38,000 or whatever is not half of 3.5 million. But yeah, I'd say that if there's so many mentions of his name, then it would be very easy to find a incriminating page that shows him doing something bad, right?
They're hide. Okay. By the way, did you realize that in most of the files, they are not only redacting like the victims, which I think is important, but they're redacting information on perpetrators.
Yeah, I don't
So
know
yeah,
enough about that. You'd have to give me an example. And by the way, I wouldn't support that
look
if they're
throughout
if they're doing that.
the entirety of the files. They're protecting perpetrators and saying, "Oh no, we're only protecting the victims." They're not. They're protecting everybody who's in those files.
All right, give me an example. And by the way, I wouldn't support it if they're protecting the perpetrators. If they're doing that, I don't support it. Okay, but give me an example of it happening.
I can plug in my computer and search up some of the files.
Sure, it'd just be like if the argument is that Trump's name is in there so many times, I'm just confused that why is there nothing that incriminates him if he's such a bad guy?
Delilah. One, I'm getting my dog away from my computer. Delilah, go. We can debate abortion while I plug in my computer because I can't use it without it being plugged in.
All right, so why do you support abortion?
I support women having the choice. I support having the choice over their own bodies. Delilah, go. Come over here.
Is it her
One
body?
second, let me mute.
Okay,
Yes, it is.
is
It
it her
is.
DNA?
Part of it, yeah.
Not all of it though. It's their own separate DNA.
I have a question. Do you believe that
Okay.
that it's a human being based on the fact that it's a cell
No,
of
there's cells in
it's
the
human DNA?
world in the universe that aren't human cells.
No, I'm saying, do you believe it's a human because it has human DNA? It's like a
No,
human cell.
I don't follow for the mitosis argument where if you scratch off skin cells, that would technically be human cells. The difference between human skin cells and
You're
this
cutting
would be
out.
one is mitosis, one is meiosis, one is an actual member of the Homo sapien species.
You're cutting out.
Again, I'm I don't know how I'm cutting out. Do you hear me
Um,
now? Does it sound fine now?
I think I have to. I think I have to leave. It's cutting out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
I,
fine. Sorry. Um,
yeah. An actual debater up. All right. Apparently, this is a real debater. Sorry if your mic is working now or whatever. Just request back up. I'll let you up later. Uh, Hi, Father. Now I'm scared. You're a real debater. Now I'm kind of nervous.
Yeah, comparatively, yeah. You're debating kids. It's not very impressive. Like, I don't. Why exactly is the prompt of like, why don't you support Trump? I think it should be pretty obvious.
Why?
Like,
Yes,
someone
it's
with
so
such a
obvious.
disregard for the law is, yeah, because he has a flagrant disregard for our law.
Sure. So Trump has held he's done so much for criminal policy. It's undeniable that the criminal policy in the United States right now is significantly better than it was 4 years ago or 3 years ago, right? I'd say that crime right now is really, really low in America. What affects us the most would be criminal policy, would be crime on the streets. We've seen the largest decrease in American history thanks to President Trump. It's the lowest rate that it's been since 1900s, since the year 1900.
Is this
That's
you're not? This is not responding to what I said. You
yeah. I mean,
understand
so
that
when we're talking
criminal
about crime, yeah, it's
policy,
pretty
yeah,
relevant.
criminal policy and regard for the law are distinctly different things. As for that 70 stat, that was a thing. That was also the case under the Biden administration. The crime rate's been going down since the Biden administration. I don't know why you're bringing that up.
Not
But I
to the
said
extent.
disregard for the law. Yeah, it's been
That's a
declining.
terrible
That's how trends
comparison.
work. Yeah,
No,
trends
yeah,
work as in they
the
go
crime was
downwards over
going down,
time.
but it was not the largest
No,
decrease in American
no, it
history.
was.
It
It
was the
was since the
largest decrease in
70s.
American
Biden
history.
had the lowest crime rate. That is just true. You can look
In
that
the
up.
70s?
Yep, since the 70s.
Oh,
This is not
since the 70s,
responsive
yeah.
though. I want
Well,
us
no,
to get
no,
back to
you're
the
going to make an
point.
argument that I'm not allowed to respond to. That's not how it works. Yes, the largest decrease in American history would not just be following a trend. It would be some sort of policy that was enforced or enacted by the president that would cause this to happen.
No, that's not necessarily the case. There's various different factors that go into crime rates. For instance, state policies, law enforcement, etc. The president of the United States has a very little effect on that. It's going to be federal policy, not state policy. But
Is it?
again, this is a pivot. I don't know why we're getting away from Trump's
What would be the
disregard
state
for the
policy
law.
then?
It can be any sort of state policy. States have their own criminal statutes.
This
They
is
can
like a
enforce them in
national
different
level though. Like
ways.
this isn't like one direct state.
Yes, states composite of a national, like what?
Yeah, so like
If
what is
states
actually causing this
collectively
to
have lower
happen?
crime rates,
What
yeah,
is
they can
causing
be
this
numerous
national
factors, like
decrease?
I've
It's not
told
one
you.
state because one state's the one out of 50 when it caused the largest decrease in American history.
Yes, there's a totality of circumstances, state policies being one of them.
And federal
It's not
policies also
contingent on the
being one of them.
president. Of course, then you would agree
Exactly.
that
You
it's
just
not the
accepted just
president that has
okay,
the
thank you for
factor.
acknowledging that. So yeah, the
Wait,
Trump
you realize this
administration
is
has
a
done
concession on your
policies.
point.
Trump has enacted policies that has
Mhm.
lowered crime rates, and that's like an objective
Based
fact.
like what? Name
Like
one.
sending the National Guard in and
That
deporting
didn't lower
criminals. It's a very
crime.
simple thing.
That didn't lower crime.
You don't think that sending the National Guard in to
Yeah,
arrest criminals lowers
yeah.
crime?
They didn't arrest criminals. That's not allowed. It's unlawful under the Posse Comitatus Act. The National Guard can't enforce federal law. It can't enforce state law. That's illegal.
What's the purpose of the National Guard?
It's to protect the states. It's to
Right.
be used by the governors.
From who?
The National Guard doesn't enforce laws.
That's domestic
Hello?
and foreign. So like if it's domestic and there's criminals in America that's
They
making
don't
everybody
enforce
else's life
laws. That's
unsafe.
unlawful.
If they can definitely arrest criminals. Like that would be
No,
part
they
of
can't.
protecting.
Do you know what the Posse Comitatus Act is?
No.
Okay, the Posse Comitatus Act, it was made after the Civil War, and it essentially outlined that federal troops, including the National Guard, are not allowed to enforce law on domestic grounds. So no, the National Guard or the Army or any sort of federal agency does not enforce law, at least if they're connected to the military. That's not what they do.
So what's the purpose of the National Guard?
Sure. If the National Guard's job is to defend threats from foreign entities.
Yes,
that is
it would
their
be defending
purpose.
threats.
Their job is
One of
not
the-
to enforce
Could that threat
domestic
be
law.
someone
That's
that's like
not
a
their
criminal in
purpose.
the United States?
That is enforcing domestic law. That is the Posse. I can just read the
If
Posse
that's
Comitatus
considered
Act.
enforcing domestic law, then so would there being threats within our country. If there's
No,
threats
because
within our
that's not
country that's
contingent
threatening
on the
American
law.
citizens and they're not allowed and they can protect from them, then why wouldn't it be the same situation with criminals that Trump
Yeah, they can protect- yeah.
arrested with the National Guard? Why?
Yeah,
What's the difference here?
Because whenever the National Guard was established, the Dick Act of 1903, it established that the National Guard was used to protect the states, but that protection is not reliant on federal enforcement. That's not what the National Guard does. National Guard doesn't enforce federal law.
It does
Do you
when it comes
understand
to
how there's a
protecting
distinction?
people.
The
Yeah,
same way
it's
the
protecting
military
people, then it would
abroad.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
same way
argument
the
would be that
military
if they're
abroad.
protecting people and they happen to align with the law, then would that mean that they're contradicting their role and what the National Guard is supposed to do?
They're not allowed to enforce federal law.
That's
I don't
not
know
what I
what's too
asked.
difficult about this.
If they're
You didn't
protecting
ask a
American
question, you
citizens and it
received
happens
it.
to be adjacent with the federal law or the state law, would that mean that they're
then
no
that's
longer do that?
unlawful. Yes,
No
that
longer
is
allowed to do that?
unlawful. They're not allowed to enforce law. That is correct.
That's not what I'm asking. If they're protecting American citizens from domestic threats, and that happens to follow some sort of state or local law, would that
If it
contradict
happens,
then
if it
what their
happens to
entire purpose?
coincide,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
If it happens to coincide, that's fine. If it's
okay. That's
enforcing a
exactly what
law,
they're
it's
doing.
not.
Then they're
They're
protecting
not
American
doing
citizens
that.
from criminals that are putting American lives at risk and making our streets less safe.
That's
That
not.
happens to
That's
be
called
adjacent to
enforcement.
the
Wait, how do
laws
they
within
do
the United
that? How do they
States.
do that? How do you enforce an immigration arrest?
We're not talking about immigration. We're talking about
That
National
we
Guard.
are talking about immigration. You talked about them arresting criminals. Are you referring to domestic criminals
We're
or immigrant
talking about
criminals?
domestic criminals. The National Guard came in.
Okay,
Your
so you're
initial
talking
argument, you're
about
switching
domestic
from
criminals.
National Guard to deportation. It's a completely different situation.
Okay, so what? How do you enforce arrests on civil grounds? How do you do that?
You'd have to have some reasonable cause.
Yes,
And
and
you have to
what's
enact
that
it.
according to? What's that according to?
It depends on the situation.
It's according to state laws. That's not what the National Guard is
No,
allowed to
the
do.
National Guard doesn't have to abide by the state laws. Like they don't have to say, "Oh, we have to do this and do that."
What?
Remember, that's your words. Your words exactly. The National Guard's role isn't to enforce state laws.
The National Guard's job is not to enforce laws. That is correct.
Exactly. So what are you even talking about?
Your argument's literally all over the place. I'm not particularly sure what you're talking about.
I mean, you're the one that just jumped around from National Guard to immigration. So if anyone's all over the place, it'd be you.
You said the National Guard's purpose. This is what you said it prior, so don't try to act like you didn't. You said the National Guard was there to also enforce immigration laws. That's what you said explicitly.
Never made that
So I'm
claim.
not sure
What are
why
you talking about?
You did make that claim.
Never. No,
You
I
said
did
the
not.
National
Now you're
Guard was
making
there
things
to
up.
deport immigrants. You said that explicitly.
No, the National Guard is to protect American citizens from domestic threats. That's what the National Guard does. That's my initial
That's what
claim, and you know
that's
that's
what
my
you
initial claim.
described.
Now you're
Yeah, you
lying about
described.
me. Do you want
Yeah,
me to
you
kick you for
described.
lying about me?
I didn't lie about you. You're
You did,
describing their
though.
purpose. We're talking
You
about
know
the
for a fact
policy.
you just made that up
Look,
entirely.
it's fine. We can agree to disagree on this point. We can just say, by the way, Trump's use of the National Guard itself was unlawful. So I don't know why we're citing that as a good thing, right? It was just flagrantly unlawful. He had no authority to do so. So I don't know why we're citing that particular.
Be honest, this is gonna sound crazy. If it's making America better, do I really care?
I mean, then you would just be conceding to my point. So
Does
mean,
it
if
really
you wanna
matter
make
though?
that-
If America's better, does it really matter?
are you conceding that Trump doesn't care about the law? Your argument's now
Well,
that
no, I mean
Trump
Trump
doesn't care
does
about the
care
law, but
about
it's
the
a
law
good
to an
thing.
extent. I mean, he's the one that brought back
Okay,
Amerigo
so
Garcia, even though it really wasn't best for America. He still followed the federal court orders.
okay, so
But,
is the claim that the sending of the National Guard wasn't illegal, or the claim is that it was illegal, but it was just good to do
I'm
so?
not. I don't know enough about what the National Guard actually did. I could argue against what
You
your
just
point is
talked
that they're
about the National
hold on.
Guard,
No,
dude.
your
What?
argument was initially that they followed state laws, thus they're not constitutional. Or they're not doing what they're supposed to do. What they're doing is protecting American citizens from domestic threats. If that happens to be adjacent to the state laws, but you agreed would still be allowed if it just happens to coincide with the state or federal or local laws, then it would be fine. That's what they're doing. Again, that
Does
argument,
your
that in of itself is not an argument that they're not doing or they're not abiding by their lawful duties.
Okay, so is your argument that, because you didn't answer my question, so you're saying the National Guard usage was unlawful, or you just don't know anything about it?
I don't know anything. That's kind of a stretch. I would say that I'm
Well,
not
you
sure.
spoke
I haven't
about
heard
the
a good
National
enough
Guard.
argument that says that they are unconstitutional or they're unlawful. Because the argument that you brought up doesn't really stand very well on its own.
Yeah, the argument that Trump used the National Guard in unlawful ways, I haven't introduced an argument for that. We're talking about the Posse Comitatus
You
Act.
just did. You're just talking about state and local laws.
We're
and how
talking
they
about the Posse
are-
Comitatus Act. What?
Yeah, that's an argument. You just admitted to. You made an argument. What are you talking
That's
about?
not an argument about Trump's usage of the. I'm so confused. Like, are you keeping up with this conversation? We talked about the Posse Comitatus Act, and then now we're talking about Trump's usage of the Guard. Do you agree that
Yes.
Trump's usage of the Guard is illegal?
You have to give me an
Do you
argument for
agree? So
why
that
it
was
would
illegal.
be. I never
Yeah,
made
of
that
course.
claim.
So
You
under
have
the
to
10th Amendment, yeah, I'll
under
give
the
the
10th
argument.
Amendment.
Got to calm down.
What
Yes,
are you
under
talking
the
about the
10th
10th
Amendment,
Amendment
right?
for?
And he writes. Are you gonna let me give the argument why it's unlawful? Or are
I
you
mean,
just
you kind of keep
interrupting?
interrupting me. It's going to quite annoying.
You
But
asked for an argument though.
yes, and then you interrupt me while I'm like
So
trying
can I
to
give an
ask for
argument?
clarification, and then you're just making yourself
Yeah,
look
I can
silly.
give you sure. If your question is the 10th Amendment, the 10th Amendment is in the Bill of Rights. It was signed by Madison and
I
the
know.
founders back in 1789. Any other questions?
Yes. So how is that
Okay,
relevant?
so
All
yeah,
right. If
I
you're
can
gonna be a
explain
piece
to
of
you.
crap, I'm not talking to you. Sorry. Sorry. If you're gonna act like a little schoolgirl and try to be sassy about it, I really don't care. It's like a grown man acting like a child. It's unbelievable. All right, James.
Hello.
What's up, dude?
Hey. Nothing much. Just wanted to respond to them. The bottom two, I disagree with. I don't agree with abortion or changing your gender. I definitely don't support Trump, though. I think he's horrible for the country.
Do you think he would be better? Would it be better if Kamala Harris was president
Would it be better as far as what? Like,
for America, for children in the womb, for economics, for
I don't
you
think
can
he's,
decide.
I don't, well, I don't think he's pro-life. He supports exceptions for rape and incest, and he supports IVF.
He's more pro life than Kamala Harris, though. Wouldn't you agree?
As far as abortion, sure.
Yeah, I'd say that's a
He
pretty
still
big,
supports
important issue from a
IVF.
Christian. I'm assuming you're Catholic. From a Christian standpoint, that'd be pretty important when it comes to determining whether or not you should support a candidate. Once you overturn Roe v. Wade, which would basically make it a federal law to allow more abortions for all states, even in Republican red states, you'd still be allowed to have an abortion. Now, whether or not you should actually be able to enact that, I don't know. I don't know how she would be able to do that. It's a Supreme Court ruling, but that's what she supports, and I think that that's pretty important when determining whether or not you can support someone.
Right, but I'm saying he still supports murder regardless because he supports IVF.
Sure, I don't support that, but again, that'd be more pro-life than Kamala Harris.
Sure, I think he's also done some like quite bad things. I think his character just in general is horrible.
Okay,
I
well,
think he's gave the Republican Party a really bad look.
I think the Republican Party is giving the Republican Party a bad look.
I think everyone's sucking up to him. There used to be a huge anti-Trump movement, even among Republican politicians, and now it's just not working. People are constantly turning away from the party just because of Trump, because they give it a bad look. We need someone who's actually a strong leader, who's not going to kiss up to Trump, who can actually get things done.
Sure, but I would say that Trump
Because
has
yeah,
gotten things done.
because otherwise you're going to get fired or you're going to get a little pet name if you disagree with one thing he says. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I honestly don't agree with that. I don't think that there should be one guy in charge of the entire political party. But I mean, I don't think that's like a good enough argument to say that Trump is a bad president.
I think it is. He incited an insurrection on January 6th and
Oh
pardoned
my
violent
gosh,
rioters. I think
he
that's
incited the
Yo,
domestic
insurrection.
James, you do not know what you're talking about.
Okay, how don't I know what I'm talking about? Define insurrection.
That was the other guy. Yeah, so we could talk
Can you
about the
define
insurrection.
insurrection for me?
So would you say that Trump saying "Let's go to protest peacefully and patriotically" would that be like a quote that indicates
Uh,
of an insurrection?
Not when you say fight like hell
Okay,
simultaneously.
so
No,
Martin
you
Luther
can't say.
King was also inciting an insurrection.
And what event specifically?
He said that I believe it
Did
was
he say to
the
fight like hell?
yeah he used the similar term. I think Obama. I don't know if Obama made the same term.
Wait, what are you referring to specifically? What event?
It was Martin Luther King. Maybe it wasn't Martin Luther King. Might have been Kamala Harris. But there's been numerous. It's a very common term during protests.
An insurrection is a violent uprising against the government. So the Proud Boys and all those groups who came and broke in with rider shields and attacked police officers. No, maybe you could have an argument if he condemned the people, but he continued to pardon them and call them patriots, like DJ Rodriguez, who drove a stun gun into the neck of a police officer. He pardoned him, called him a patriot.
Well,
That's
I would
not
say that he
patriotic to
would.
me to
That's not
attack
a good
police
enough argument that he
officers.
incited the insurrection. A good enough argument would be that he told everybody to storm the Capitol, but he didn't.
He told them to fight like hell. He told them to go and fight like hell. You can still see the original Twitter post.
That's not an yeah. I've seen it, but that's not an argument that he's telling. If you're at the protest, right? Which this was a peaceful protest at the time that he's saying
It's
this,
not a
right?
peaceful
It
protest.
was a
No,
pro. It was a no. It was objectively a peaceful protest at the time that he said
no,
this.
it wasn't.
Okay, what was happening? What time was it when he said this?
He tells them to uh this was the day before it happened. So this was before it happened, right? So let's go through the definition of an insurrection again. It's a violent uprising against the government. The Capitol is a government building. He tells them to go there and use violence. That's definitionally an insurrectionist.
He said this at 1 p.m. Only it was actually on January 6th. He didn't say that the day before. He said this on January 6th, right? He said peacefully and patriotically. If you're at the protest and you hear him say that, do you automatically assume let's go storm the Capitol? Is that what he's inferring?
No, the day before he said go and fight like hell. Then during it, when there was violence, then he said, "Oh, he backtracked because
No.
he knew it wasn't a good look." Yes,
It doesn't even matter if he said it the day before or the day after.
it does matter.
If
Yeah,
that's what you're
because that's
inferring,
insurrectionist.
no, if that's the inference, then by that
It's
logic,
not
all
just an
these other crazy people
inference.
that use the same terminology would also be inciting insurrections. But for some reason, people at the protests during Martin Luther King's speech didn't automatically assume to go charge the White House or the
Yes,
Capitol.
and
Why is that?
I want to be clear. I want to be clear. I don't hold a double standard. If any person tells someone to go to a government building, says fight like hell, or says use violence, that they are an insurrectionist. I don't
So
hold a double standard. Anyone who does that, insurrectionist.
I think you're raising the standard or lowering the standard of what an insurrection is by
No,
just
I'm
saying that
not.
everything the president says
What
is
is
an
an insurrection?
indication of what an insurrection is. Would someone that's trying to incite an insurrection say, "Let's
Never
protest
said that.
peacefully and patriotically"?
After there's violence, after he told them not to use violence, and he realizes that
No, he said
it's
this
a very
before.
bad look on him. Yes,
He said this
that's a
before. What are you talking
contradictory
about?
statement. Look, please. So, do you think "fight like hell" saying it before? That was his last tweet before all the violence happened because he encouraged it. Yes, that's insurrectionist behavior. You can't just say something nice before, then go all crazy and say, "Oh, because he said something before." That doesn't matter. Who cares?
How do you get from
It,
fight like that to go
because
storm
he's
the Capitol?
insane. He's mentally
No, no,
incompetent.
no.
That's
That's
why.
not what Trump. That's nothing to do with Trump. How does a protester in their right mind, their conscious, non-drunk mind, assume Trump means to go take over the Capitol when he says that? No, it's
Because
a protest. It's a term
because it's
within
a
a
cult.
protest.
Because it's a cult. If I was in
No,
a cult
what
too, I
does that
would
have
do
to do
the
with a
same thing.
cult? I'm talking about how do you infer that?
Because you have
Where's
to
the
obey
context
him.
clues that
Fight like
comes into
hell.
that
Fight like
play?
hell. That's what they have to do. That's what Trump
But
commanded.
that's not what he's
What Trump
inferring. Where
commanded
does
is
the
what
inference
goes,
come from
right?
to storm the Capitol? I'm just asking,
It's
how do
the
you
inference. It's
logically
not just
jump
an
from that
inference.
conclusion?
He told them to go there and fight like hell.
No,
And you
they were
use your
already at the
brain,
Capitol.
rub together two brain cells to index what that means. You don't
Yeah,
need to
it
make an
doesn't.
inference. You don't have to be a rocket science. This
Okay,
is basic stuff.
Martin Luther King over he incited an insurrection
Why
too.
are you pivoting to market? We're talking about Donald Trump, not
Yeah,
Martin Luther.
because
I couldn't care less about Martin Luther King
it's
right
Martin
now. Let's
Luther
talk about
King.
Donald Trump and
If
not
Martin Luther
pivot.
King said that, would that make
Are you gonna
him an
pivot?
insurrectionist?
If you told them to go to a government building and said fight like hell or
No,
use violence, yes, he's an
they were already at the
insurrectionist.
government. They were already at the federal property, right? And he says, "Fight like whatever, fight like heck." Does that automatically make
Where
him?
did he say that?
It was very similar. He used the same similar terminology, but I'm just asking if he's. Let's say he
Are you
said that word
referring to
for
when police
word.
officers were Are you referring to when peace officers were beating people that were innocently protesting, and he said you could fight back? That's completely different.
No,
They
he
ran
never said
into the
that.
Capitol. They bashed it in with riot shields. They took the police officers' riot shield, drove stun gun into the necks. That's not the same thing. Donald Trump pardoned them and called them patriots. I hate the butt Biden, the butt MLK. I couldn't care less about them. It's completely irrelevant. We're talking about Donald Trump. So you want to respond to my point? Does Donald Trump fit the definition of an insurrectionist?
No, he doesn't because if your only
How?
arguments they said fight like heck, that's your jumping from conclusion. That's only you, pal. You're
It's
the only one
not.
that jumped to any conclusion there. Like
What
you
how did I
alone were the
jump
one
to my
that thought
conclusion?
that.
And then his no, and it's even his actions after that were indicative that he wasn't regretful of it because then he pardoned violent ones and called them patriotic. Wait, let me ask you a question. Do you think it's patriotic to drive a stun gun into the neck of a police officer?
No.
Okay, so was Trump wrong?
Yes, I would say that he shouldn't have done the blanket pardon. I think he should have been more specific with who he pardoned.
Right. I don't think anyone participating in an insurrection should be pardoned.
I would say that people that were in the Capitol that didn't do anything should be pardoned if they're arrested. Do you think that someone that was just like walking around the Capitol, which is federal property, that didn't break any laws, didn't defecate on the walls like some of the crazy people did, didn't destroy
They
anything,
still
should they
still
be
came in
arrested?
without permission.
I
If they
think the
came in
idea
without
that
permission, yes. You
yeah,
can't trespass on someone's property.
some of these
Yeah,
people
that's
actually
how it
were
works.
allowed to be there though. Like some of the people that were arrested
Like
were
who?
I don't know the exact names, but there's some people that were touring the Capitol at the time, and they ended up being arrested.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm not sure specifically who you're referring to. I don't understand how a few people justifies hundreds of insurrectionists, which he caused, by the way.
He did not cause this insurrection. If he's telling everyone to protest peacefully and patriotically, then the only argument is that he said fight like heck, which is a crazy inference to
Okay.
storm the Capitol. And you know it's a crazy inference because you're actually making a logical point towards that. And you would acknowledge that all these other people that use the same terminology would then be inciting an insurrection. The argument
Okay,
that
I'm
he
gonna
says this and continues to tweet to protest peacefully throughout the entire day, and some of them were taken down too. Is that really someone that's trying to incite an insurrection?
do this ABC once again for you. Okay. He says go protest. Then the day before he says fight like hell. Then the protest is occurring. He sees violence. He knows it's a bad look. He says protest peacefully, leave.
Nope.
Yeah, exactly. That's
It's wrong.
backtracking because it's a bad look.
You've got the time wrong.
Okay, tell
He
me
said
how
this
it's
at like
wrong.
9 o'clock. He said this at 9 a.m. He said protest peacefully and patriotically. It was not during.
During the
By the
yes,
way,
during the
Trump
protest.
left the protest once it actually. He was already gone once the protest started becoming a riot. Okay, he wasn't even
Because it
there
was a bad
anymore.
look. It was a horrible look.
It was
Yes, because
okay.
it's a
That's a
horrible
bad look.
look
That
on
doesn't make
him.
him an
Inciting
insurrectionist.
an insurrection. Who told them to use violence?
Not Trump.
What does fight like hell mean? Can you explain that to
I
me
don't.
for
It
someone who
means to
might not know?
protest. It means to It means to protest like
Fight
of
like
every
hell
other
is
person. Like Martin
protesting?
Luther King. Martin Luther King wasn't telling everybody to go storm the Capitol and beat all the people in the Capitol. It wasn't telling the people to unalive Lyndon B. Johnson when he said this terminology. Same with Kamala Harris. I think her slogan was literally something very similar. What was Kamala Harris's slogan?
I don't support Kamala
Was
Harris.
she
How is she even
okay?
remotely relevant to
Okay.
this? She has
Question.
nothing to do with this. I
Does
don't
she
even
incite an
support her.
insurrection with her slogan?
What was specifically was her slogan?
When we fight, we win.
Do you know the difference between fighting metaphorically? First of all, I don't even
Yes,
support
this
her.
is fighting metaphorically, just
Fighting
like Trump is
metaphor.
talking about. Thank you. You're
It's
acknowledging
a
that
metaphor to
sometimes things
go
can be
to a capital.
metaphors.
Wait, no, because there's sometimes yes, but you have to look at the context and conclude reasonably. Saying when we fight we win. Yeah, obviously she's not telling someone to show up. If she told someone to show up to specific location or a government building and said that, then yeah, that would be insurrectionist. But that's not what that was just her campaign slogan. Still, I don't support her. I'm not trying to like defend her, but it's obviously different. You can use context to indicate whether someone what someone means. I
By
mean,
your
this
own
is elementary
logic,
stuff.
hold on, by your own logic, if Kamala Harris had a protest or a rally at federal property and she mentioned her own slogan and her slogan was put on banners all across the building, that would be a sign of an inciting of an insurrection.
Yeah, if she told people to show up to the location and said when I fight, we're gonna win. Yes, that
So
would be insurrection.
the 2024
Yes,
election was held
that'd be
between two
inciting an
different
insurrection.
people, two different insurrectionists,
How
effectively
is
is
that?
what you're saying.
How is that even remote? How's that even remotely relevant?
Because you realize
You
no
still haven't convinced.
Republicans,
Now I'm
no
asking you again. Can you define fight like hell? What is that? What does that
I
mean?
mean, it would be pretty similar to what you said. It would be
Like, I want a
metaphorically.
specific definition.
I can't give you a definition of a sentence. That's not how it works. I can explain it to you
Like,
differently. It would be a
wait,
metaphorical term to continue to
yeah, you can.
protest for a really long, I guess, a long time. He did probably assume that protest would be a lot longer than I don't know, a few hours. But I wouldn't say that using that type
People.
of logic, fighting is not actually saying let's go
Oh,
attack the Capitol. Because in that logic, probably most representatives and most senators and most people that have ran for Congress and most people that have ran for any sort of power have used the same sort of terminology, making most people insurrectionists. That idea is
it's the
silly.
Okay, there's two things. One, the context specifically, and two, his actions after. His actions after indicated that he wasn't regretful because he pardoned them and called them patriots. It's so easy to comprehend this, and you do comprehend this because I don't think you're an idiot like you're acting. I really don't think so. I think you want to suppress the truth, and you just want to support this blind cult like support for Trump. Just say you want to be conservative and don't support Trump. That's what I did. It's not difficult. You don't have to have this huge support for Trump. Just
It's
renounce him and
it,
say, I'm a conservative. We want better conservative candidates rather than making conservatives look bad as a whole because you have this such huge devotion to Trump. Stop it.
it's not a huge devotion to Trump. I already acknowledged that he messed up.
Yes,
If
it
it was a
is.
big cult, if it was a big cult like y'all claim it is, then why do we criticize them so much? No one in human history, no representative, no politician, no president in American history has gotten so much hate and so much, I wouldn't even say hate, so much intolerance from their own community and their own support. People that criticize them on a regular basis. Obama never had that. Biden never had that. No one else in presidency has ever had that. The idea that Trump has a cult, it's silly. It's the complete opposite of a cult. And you can talk about, oh, you pardon these people, calling them patriots.
Cult.
Yeah, okay, I don't support that. I don't support him blindly pardoning every single person. He should pardon the people that didn't commit any crimes, that didn't do anything wrong. Those people should be people should be pardoned. The people that are getting extremely long sentences for like walking the Capitol without permission, I don't really think they should be getting 20 years in prison. Okay, but people that did attack police officers, sure, they can go to prison. Okay, I don't support that. But the idea that Trump incited an insurrection because of something he did after that doesn't really make the idea, because the
I said it's
inciting the insurrection
indicative
would mean
of
the
it.
actions that he did leading up to the quote unquote insurrection.
I know, but to determine whether or not it was an insurrection, you can reliably use facts after to determine whether or not what his intent was.
So that's
Obviously,
not
you can. Obviously, it's yes, you can. Yes,
no,
you
that's not
can.
my argument. My
So,
argument isn't
by the
that
way,
it
I'm
wasn't
not
an
saying it's a
insurrection.
cult. I'm saying it's cult-like tendencies.
Okay, I'm not saying that it wasn't an insurrection. I haven't made that argument. The argument was that Trump didn't incite it, because inciting would mean looking at what he did previous to the quote unquote insurrection. And if what he's saying is, the best argument that you have is he said fight, he used the word fight when he was talking about the protests, it wouldn't be a strong enough
No,
argument,
he
because
said
most people that have had protests before have used the term fight. And that would make everybody an insurrectionist.
Fight like hell, specifically. That's even stronger usage. And again, we can use facts after to determine. It's not a post hoc rationalization, but we can still use facts after to determine someone's intent. Absolutely.
It wasn't about even the intent, though. The intent doesn't even matter. Like, let's say I was from home saying, all right, let's go team, let's go storm the Capitol. Not saying not actually telling anybody to do anything, but just like rooting for them. Let's say I was watching Fox News. Would that make me an insurrectionist for my intent? No, it would
Yes,
be what I would actually
yes.
do.
You are
If I
supporting an
didn't,
insurrection. Absolutely.
if I didn't do anything, but
Absolutely.
I
That was
said, let's go
such an
storm.
embarrassing point to make.
No, it was a.
It
What
was
are you
an
talking about?
embarrassing point to
If
make.
you don't storm the
That
Capitol,
was
how does that make you an
embarrassing.
insurrectionist? If you're not actually doing
Because you're
anything, you're not
actively
actually
supporting.
contributing to the insurrection. How does it make you an insurrectionist?
Yes, you're promoting violent behaviors.
I'm not
Absolutely.
promoting it
If you
though.
go online and you look something up about like murdering someone, especially someone in the high ranks, absolutely.
That
Even though
wouldn't. No, that's what I'm doing though. The argument you're Ticum. So the argument would be me simply rooting for someone, my intentions, but not getting in the way with my actual actions. That alone would not make me an insurrectionist. Like you're arguing with Trump. Sure, you can have. Let's play like the devil's advocate here and
you
say
think
that Trump did have the intentions of overthrowing the Capitol. You would have to see it in his actions though to determine whether or not he was actually inciting an insurrection.
wait. Do you think people who rooted for Mustache Man, they should have been arrested?
People that rooted for him. I don't. What do you mean rooted for him? Like, what's your definition of rooted for him? Like, do I
Like
think
they just
neo
supported.
Nazis should be arrested? I don't think so.
They shouldn't.
I don't think in the United States right now neo Nazis shouldn't be arrested, but people that did support and contribute to the Nazi cause in like the 1930s and 40s, sure, they should be arrested because they contributed to something bad. But simply contributing, this actually be a point for me. Simply contributing to something is much more different than someone that just has intentions but doesn't actually act upon those intentions. Like me having the intentions of doing something bad, that wouldn't necessarily make me the bad guy.
Right, and it's different. Well, no, if you do something bad, you're in that moment being a bad guy. Yeah.
If you do something bad, that's different than having the intentions and like wanting something bad to
Trump.
happen.
I want to be clear. Trump wasn't the only bad guy. It was also the people who participated in the insurrection, and grown men who went out of their way to storm riot building,
Sure,
to
like
storm
Nick
the Capitol building.
Fuentes. Yeah, I'd say Nick
Nick
Fuentes.
Fuentes is disgusting.
He should have been arrested. But I would say that these people. I don't. When we're talking about the criminals here, the criminal would not
Nick
be
Fuentes
Donald
is
Trump.
worse than Trump.
I wouldn't say. I would say the people that were actually inciting it, people like Nick Fuentes, that were saying, "Let's go storm the Capitol. Let's go attack them. Let's go take back or whatever. Go take Nancy Pelosi and like hold her hostage." I don't know what they are saying. The people that are saying the crazy stuff and actually doing the crazy stuff should be arrested. Trump simply saying, "Okay, let's go fight," which has been a term used by everybody. It's not a good enough argument. The idea that he had these intentions of it happening again would not be a good enough argument because he didn't act on those intentions. In fact, he acted on the opposite. He tweeted numerous times to be peaceful, even during when a lot of people like
After
to
the
argue this
fact.
after the fact. No, there's a tweet that was taken down during the actual storming. I think it was at 2:00 when the actual attack was
Exactly.
happening. That was
Exactly.
that's when it was happening. He made the
During
tweet.
and
It was
after.
taken down. That's not after. That's when it's
During and
happening.
after.
Yeah,
During and after.
yes,
Because
during.
it's
That would
still a
be
bad
a good
look.
point. Yes, during
Yeah,
and
because it's
before.
still a bad look. It's still a bad look.
Yeah,
So
bad
he
look isn't a good
realized
enough
that, and
argument.
then he did it. Also, by the way, I don't like to respond to comments normally, but I did not support the BLM riots. I don't know how you even got that. That person must have been listening for like 2 minutes. No, what were you saying?
Yeah. So again, the idea that Trump only tweeted during. Of course, he tweeted during the insurrection, like that, if quote unquote insurrection. If it was before, he did make comments before to stay peaceful, right? Then you acknowledge that he did make tweets during, which I don't really know how he was supposed to go back in time and make a tweet before, but he did make tweets during, which was taken down, and then after he posted a video saying everybody go home. Okay, that's the
Right,
that's
I
this
know
that's
he
the
posted.
timeline here. Where's the insurrection coming from when it comes to Trump? Where's Trump coming into play when it comes to
Yeah,
contributing to the
he
insurrection?
posted. Yeah, he posted stuff before, during, and after. The comments about being peaceful occurred during and after because he realized how bad of a look it was.
No, he said before. I already mentioned peacefully and patriotically. Let's go protest peacefully and
Yes, he said
patriotically. That
that
was before.
before the fight like hell. You're not
Yeah,
understanding
yes,
that.
he made the tweet. There's three
And by the way,
stages: before, during, and after. Each stage has him saying "stay peaceful."
by the way, you just said quote unquote insurrection, but earlier you just conceded that it was an insurrection, but Trump
I
wasn't the
didn't.
insurrectionist.
I didn't concede. I was
Yes, you
just saying it.
did.
I didn't say. I simply said I'm
You
not
referred
arguing
to
that
it
it
as an
is or isn't.
insurrection.
That my argument was that, or my point was that I'm not arguing that it is an insurrection or isn't an insurrection. I'm not interested in having that argument. Maybe it is an insurrection. What I can tell you though is that Trump
Of
did not
course, it is
lead
an
the insurrection. He
insurrection.
didn't contribute to the insurrection. Okay, that would be
Or,
completely different.
well, I think that's an important point because that's the base of an entire thing. You can't have an insurrectionist without an insurrection. So I just want to know, do you believe it's an insurrection?
Sure, we can go. I will concede it just so I don't have to debate it. Like I just don't feel like debating that point.
Well, if you don't believe that, then let's talk about it.
Sure, I don't know enough about it. I have to do more research. I've heard both sides of whether or not it's an insurrection. It doesn't matter if it's an insurrection or not when we're
Yeah, it does.
criticizing Trump. If the criticism's on Trump, whether or not it's an insurrection
It's
wouldn't
not
matter
just on
because Trump
Trump.
wasn't the one that led the insurrection.
It's not solely on Trump. It's about the other people too, like the Proud Boys and all the people that he
Sure,
pardoned.
I don't support that. I
Just
would.
go home, go to jail, and then we'll pardon you right out. Yeah, that's
All
exactly what
right,
he did.
so yeah, but will you acknowledge that the peacefully and patriotically, that quote was before, and then during, he made a tweet that said "stay peaceful," then it was taken down by Twitter, and then after he posted a video, which he made, I think, a couple other tweets about staying peaceful, and then after he posted the video to tell everybody to go home. Is that true? Is that timeline correct?
Yeah, that's correct. But you missed one. You missed the fight like hell, which was before the insurrection,
It
and it was
was.
after the be peaceful and patriotic. So you missed one. You
Yeah, and the
didn't
fight,
include the most important one.
if the word fight means to storm the Capitol,
No,
then
it's
again,
about the
every other candidate that's
context.
ever ran for any political office would be considered an insurrectionist. So that's why I don't see that quote. And by the way,
Have you heard of
even if like let's say
context?
it was a
Context
rarely
clues.
used, even if it's a rarely used term, I would still need a reason to see that and use context clues to indicate that we need to storm the Capitol when Trump had no other prior comment that even referred to anything similar to that.
Words have multiple meanings, so we
They
can
do.
look at the context and we can tell what it means from that.
Yeah,
And
what
the context was
context?
indicative that he was referring to physical fighting.
How?
How? Because for one, he actively supported it. He encouraged them to go, and then after he pardoned the violent ones, which is another after the fact that shows that that was his intent the entire time.
When did he tell anyone to go inside the Capitol and storm it?
He told them to go and fight like hell. He told them to go to that location. That's my point. I said it. The same standard applies to any other person.
Yeah, wait, what? I'm just confused. Where does the coming in of where does Trump say to storm the Capitol?
Go to
Where is
that
the inference?
location.
The
I say
location.
go to the Capitol, and
That's
then I
not a
said
good
going
enough inference
into
though. Like I'm gonna be honest. If that was the inference, then why did the vast majority of people not pick up on that sign? Why did the vast majority of people end up going back home or
because
just
they're
staying peaceful?
idiots.
They're
They're
idiots. Okay,
idiots.
that's not a good enough
Yeah.
argument. If they're
Yeah,
idiots, then
well,
why was
yeah,
Trump only?
obviously you're an idiot if you're a grown-ass man with a developed frontal cortex and you go out of your way to go to a Capitol, but police officers do some of the most unpatriotic thing. Yeah, you're a fucking
That's
idiot.
not
Yeah.
we're talking about the people that were there peacefully and didn't pick up on the sign that said, "Okay, we got to go storm the Capitol now." What about those people? Why did the vast majority of people not pick up on that sign? But for some reason, a small group of people that were really a lot dumber than the other people did.
Uh, First of all, they still went inside of the Capitol, even if they didn't personally break it. Obviously, there were some that left. Yeah, of course.
No, the vast majority of
I'm saying
people,
that
it was a
wasn't
very
true of
small
the
group of
majority.
people. It was like a couple thousand people that actually went to the Capitol compared to way more
Not
people.
very
At,
small.
it was. It
Not
was,
very small.
I believe it was like
It's not small
1%
at
of
all.
the entire protest that actually went inside the Capitol.
Where's your source?
The estimated crowd size on January 6th was ranged from 10,000 to 80,000 people. And out of that, only 2,000 people actually went into the Capitol itself. Some people, yeah, the law enforcement estimates ran as high as 80,000 people. So let's just assume, let's be even here and say it's like 50,000 people since there's so many like random ranges. 80,000, 10,000, like 50,000 people. Out of that, only 2,000 people actually went inside the Capitol. Why did the 48,000 people not? Is it because the sign was just so subtle that no one else picked up on it?
No, it's because during the protest, Trump tweeted those things and then told them to be peaceful, and then they left. Like you said,
No,
because then he backtracked. That's
these aren't
exactly
tweets
my
though.
point. That's not something in favor of your position.
The fight
I'm not
like heck
talking about
quote
that
was not a
specifically.
tweet.
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the other one where he said to be peaceful during the protest. That's specifically what I'm referring to.
Yes, so that everybody picked up on that, right? By the way, I feel like we're kind of like
Not
just jumping
everybody.
around that
Some
point,
people did.
right? If Trump is inciting an insurrection, why is he telling people to stay peaceful? Like, what is that all about? Why is he not
Because he's
letting?
backtracking.
Okay, then he backtracked.
People
Then that'll just prove the
backpedal.
point that he didn't incite an insurrection.
That isn't that how what people
If
can
he's telling people to
backtrack
go
on
back
things.
home, and he's backtracking.
If
He's going back on his.
wait. If Mustache Man would have backtracked on the H cost, does that mean he didn't incite it? He didn't start it in the first
Well,
place?
no,
Just because
but
he
that
went back on it?
when he made the
Okay, so
tweets
that was a
though.
horrible point again.
No, it wasn't because by the
That
time
you
when Trump
described him
actually made the
altogether.
tweet, they weren't even in the Capitol yet.
Wait, which tweet
He
specifically?
made so many tweets, he made so many posts, he made so many claims out loud, like a peacefully and patriotically patriotically quote.
Yes, that was
This was
before the
before
Fight
they
Like Bill,
actually went
yes.
there. So like,
That was
I'm
before the
questioning,
Fight
right?
Like
That would be like, I guess Adolf Schmittler or whatever you'd call him on TikTok would be like, okay, let's do this. Well, actually, no, let's not do that. Let's not actually have the H cost. That would be a better comparison. And if Hitler or Schmittler did do that, then sure, I wouldn't say that he did a bad thing if he didn't have the H cost because he didn't unalive the Jews. So that would be a more righteous comparison, a more realistic comparison than what you're claiming.
He didn't just unalive Jews. You know that, right?
Sure, he did. He unalived gypsies too,
Other groups of people
and
too,
also the
but sure.
Soviets, and also the Brits, and the French, and other people.
Specifically targeting like Soviet soldiers, like ethnic Poles. Yeah, um, made up about half of it.
So on that specific point, though, would you concede that if Trump was inciting an insurrection, right, would it be more or less logical of him if his intentions really were, and his actions really were for everyone to go to the Capitol and overthrow the government? Would it make sense for
Yeah,
him to tell everybody to go home, for everybody to stay peaceful when they were there? And like he made this claim like multiple times there and on
yeah.
Twitter.
Backpedaling makes sense. Yeah, backpedaling is a perfectly rational and logical thing that people do
How would he
when they
backpedal
regret
if
their
they weren't even there
decision.
yet?
Yeah,
How would
that
Oh,
they
they're
were
not even
there.
in the
Yes,
Capitol
they
yet.
were
What he's
there.
backpedaling? What does that mean?
Yes, they were there. That's
They were
not
in
true
the
at all.
Capitol
You
when he
can look
made
at
the
the
peaceful and patriotic.
timestamps.
What time?
Yeah,
What time
they
did he say
started
peaceful and
bashing in
patriotic?
the. They started bashing it in the morning. I don't remember the exact time. You can look at the timestamps. This is a largely uncontested fact. Let's see what your points with that.
No, they stormed the
He made
Capitol.
several tweets
Do you know when they actually stormed the Capitol? Like when they actually breached the Capitol? What time was it?
sometime in the early morning. I don't remember when. Sometime
No,
around 9 to 11. I think 10 is when they first entered.
no, it was 2 o'clock when they actually breached the Capitol. That's when the actual breach began. Trump said to stay peaceful and patriotic at 1:38 p.m. He ended up leaving, and that's when they actually breached the Capitol. Okay. Then throughout that,
And this
Trump
is probably
then
like a,
when what? When did he say fight like heck? I don't know. I think it was. It was right before 1 p.m. So he actually made the claim, and then he said stay peaceful and patriotic. So your
Exactly.
initial claim would actually contradict what
No.
actually happened, because your
No.
initial claim was
No.
that he said stay peaceful, and he said fight. It would actually be the other way around. He said fight, and then he said stay peaceful. So like it's
Not
obvious that
Gracie's
it was
back-to-back
using metaphorical
contradicting each
language when
other.
he said that. It's very
It's not
obvious.
obvious. Not obvious when you pardon them after. Not obvious at all. You actually would have a point if he condemned all of them and he didn't pardon them, but you don't have that point because he did.
He told everyone to go home. The point is that if he was inciting an insurrection,
But even
he wanted everyone
still,
to overthrow the Capitol, then why was he telling everybody the entire time to stop doing that? Like you can keep saying, "Oh, he was back. He was turning his back. He was just changing his mind."
saying just overthrow. I'm saying, wait, I'm not even saying just overthrow. I'm saying just causing violence in the first
No,
place.
he didn't tell anyone to do anything that. Like he wasn't the actual cause of the violence.
You're joking, right?
No, he was not the reason that they did what they did. Like if you consider him to be the reason of what he would be the cause of the violence, then by that logic, let's go back to the 60s when there was police brutality against black people. There was a lot of crime that black people ended up committing against police officers like Malcolm X supported. I wouldn't say that black people being victims would be the cause of that, because in that situation it would make black people seem like the bad guys, and like black people were the ones that are actually causing in reality. The reason that there's crime against the police officers and retaliation against police officers was because I don't know, like they felt like their voice wasn't heard or whatever. But I wouldn't blame the police brutality as like the reason, or I don't know how to describe this. But Trump simply being there at the protests and maybe leading the protests would not be a good enough reason to believe that Trump was inciting the insurrection simply because everyone gathered to see Trump talk.
Yes, it is if you're leading it and there's violence of it. But anyways, I do gotta go. It's been one. We've been talking for a while, but
All right. See you
thanks for
later.
letting me come up. But I just really want you to reconsider. I really do.
Sure.
Hello?
Howdy.
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing fine.
Hey, I was listening to your debate about the Jan 6 stuff. I think you're leaving out a major vital component of the Jan 6 incident,
What is that?
the fake electorate scheme.
You're talking about like hanging Mike Pence.
Nope, not what I'm talking about.
What are you referring to
So
then?
I'm talking about his lawyers, John Eastman and I believe it's Cheeseborough, yeah, who purposely were trying to get a slate of fake electorates
Oh
put
yeah,
in
yeah.
order to bypass the election illegally.
That would be
And that
relevant
also
to
that ties in
Jan 6.
with the Mike Pence stuff because his crackpot legal theory was that Mike Pence could approve those fake electorates, which Mike Pence decidedly said no to because it was illegal, and he said so it was illegal, and that's why Mike Pence isn't his vice president anymore.
Right. So I would say that wouldn't be a good enough reason to. I guess the initial argument that me and him were having was whether or not Trump incited the insurrection. Okay, that point to say about the election fraud and him doing this stuff, that wouldn't be an argument of him telling anyone to go to the Capitol. So that'd be
What
kind
are
of
you
like
talking
a
about?
different. That wouldn't
That
be.
perfectly ties in with it. That's one
No,
for
it
one
wasn't.
has to do with people going to the Capitol. He wanted people to storm the Capitol to delay the vote on it, so that he could convince more people.
He didn't do a very good job at telling anybody that.
What do
The
you
only
mean he
people that
didn't do a
actually
good
did
job?
that
He
was
had
like
a rally
2,000
and he
people
told
out
them
of
to
like
fight like
out of
hell.
80,000
He
people.
purposely was trying to delay the vote in order to prolong this electorate scheme.
Only 5% of the people that went to his protest understood
Okay,
that he was telling them to go to storm the protest or go storm the Capitol.
ignoring the protesters, right? Because I will agree the protesters weren't like some organized militia. I'm not saying that they were like an organized militia. I'm talking about the fact that he systematically tried to overturn the election with fake electorates and undo our democracy.
I honestly don't know enough about that situation, like with the actual
You should
elections.
probably learn about
Yeah,
that.
well, I was going to read about it. So, from what I've read, right, there was. Are you aware? Like, there was. Do you think there was actually election fraud during 2020? Like, there's
No,
actual
100%. Are you saying for Biden or for Trump?
for Biden, for either side, I guess.
For Biden, no.
Do you think that President Biden was the most popular president in American history?
That's irrelevant. And
No,
obviously
I mean
not.
let me ask. I'm asking a question. I want you to actually answer it. Do you think he was the most popular president ever?
I think people were mad enough at Trump that enough people decided to vote for him, even if they didn't support him.
81
what I
million
think.
people. 81 million
Yeah.
people voted for Biden.
A lot of people were very angry with Trump.
More people supported Biden than Obama.
Yeah, are you kidding me?
It's
When
like,
you fan the flames like that, of course you're going to get people angry.
and then why did
How
Trump
old
end
were
up
you?
winning? If people hated Trump so much, they made this crazy old guy named Biden who was
Okay,
sleeping
so
around, the
your
most popular
entire
president
argument
in
is
the
just
world,
based
and how
off
did he end up
emotion.
winning?
Okay, so your entire argument is just based off emotion. You're basically being like, "What if everyone hated this guy so much? How did he win again?" Well, it's obvious that
What do you mean that's
feelings
emotion? That's
change over a period of
logic.
4 years.
It's a
That's
logical
not logic.
question.
That's by definition an appeal of emotion. When we
No,
have
it's
these
not.
stated facts, that Donald Trump tried to overturn the election by getting fake electorates slated, we have arrests. We have the evidence of him doing it. His own vice president said what he was doing was illegal. Yet you're just saying that it's okay because Biden probably
I
didn't
didn't
vote
say anything
fraud,
was
which
okay.
every single claim of voter fraud for Biden turned out to not be true. Every piece of voter fraud that Trump claimed that was investigated was a nothing burger that led to a dead end.
Did you even
So
see the lines in the graph of like the election, like the voting count, like in Michigan and Wisconsin and
yeah,
Georgia?
but a lot
And
of people voted for Biden. That doesn't mean there was fraud. I don't know what
that's
to
not
tell
what
you. Just
that's not
because
what I'm
a lot
talking
of people
about.
vote for someone doesn't indicate fraud.
You're,
Like
you're
I don't know what to tell you.
you're arguing. I'm not. That's not the argument I'm making. Did you see the line graph of it's Republican, it's red, it's red. Here's the blue line, and out of nowhere, in the middle of the night, boom, the blue shoots up. Whether or not the electoral fraud Trump brought in, I don't know
Talking about the
not much
mail-in
about it.
votes.
But yes, the mail-in votes were. Why was it that they were all
Yeah, the
voting
mail-in
for
votes
the
that Donald
Democrat?
Trump did encourage people to do in this election because he realized how much of a benefit mail-in votes are.
No, I'm just confused though. Why was
Yes,
every single Democrat or every single mail-in ballot blue? Why were none of them red?
because I don't know if you remember this. Donald Trump specifically told people not to do mail-in voting that time.
And Republicans still did mail-in voting though. Like they were still
Not
doing that.
nearly enough. Not compared to Democrats
Not
who
a
purposely
single
pushed
one.
mail-in voting.
Not a single
What do
Republican.
you
I
mean?
know someone
Are
that
you
did.
claiming there wasn't a single Republican mail-in vote?
No, that's what we
Is that
saw though.
actually
We
your
saw them
claim?
dump
That's
in the middle of the
obviously
night. Not
untrue.
a single one
That's
was
obviously
Republican.
untrue. That's obviously untrue. You're just making up fake claims because you don't know what I'm talking about. You're just
What are you talking? I'm
your
addressing
entire
what you're
claim is
saying. What are you
based off
talking
emotion.
about? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm addressing it though. That's random. Usually you
Your
don't know how
entire
to
claim is
address
based off
something when
emotion. You're just like, okay, there was a lot of mail-in votes for Democrats. So yeah, there was.
that's
And then you're like, oh, it must have been fraud when you have zero
that's
evidence
not
for
my
it.
claim. My claim is
Okay,
that
so
why
then
were none of them
what are you
red?
hinting at?
I'm hinting at since when was it that mail-in ballots were exclusively Democrat? Like, sure, Trump said let's
They
not
never
use
were.
that, but there's Republicans that still did use it. There's still Trump supporters that did use
Yeah,
it, but
you're right.
none of the mail-in ballots that came in the middle of the night when everybody was asleep were red. Can you give me a
That's not
logical
true.
explanation of why?
That is not true. I don't know what to tell you, but that's just not true. Okay, and also, were there significantly more blue mail-in voting ballots? Yes. Do you know why?
Significantly.
Yeah, do you know why? I know you were probably really young when this election happened, but do you know why?
Because Trump said don't use them or something.
Yes, no, maybe so.
I said Trump doesn't.
Because
Trump told
Donald
us not
Trump
to
was
use.
specifically telling his voter base not to do mail-in voting. He said,
said
do
that.
not mail-in vote. Because he
And
wanted
they-
to pretend COVID wasn't a thing, whereas the Democrats did
That's
it.
just not what he did, bro. Just not even true. So
It's not.
Trump didn't
It's so
pretend
obvious
like
that you
COVID
don't
wasn't.
even remember this.
You just made the claim that Trump pretended like COVID didn't exist. You're just talking about emotion right
That's
now. And you talk about things that aren't
obviously
logical. You're an
not
idiot if you
literally.
think that. You're an actual idiot if you
Okay,
think
not-
Trump
not-
pretended like it didn't
Yeah,
exist.
okay. That's great. That's
Just
great.
genius.
I wasn't meaning it literally. Go ahead and straw man the argument. I wasn't meaning it
It's your
literally. He
words.
was trying
It's your
to
exact
avoid-
quote. What are you talking about? It's not a straw man. Define straw man.
I get that you're a child, but you just need to listen first.
No, it's a. If you okay,
He-
now we're just
he
arguing
was
about age.
pretending that it
Now.
wasn't
I'm
an
pretty sure that's a
issue.
fallacy too.
He was pretending that it wasn't an issue. Are you going to address my claims of the fake electorate scheme or not?
He literally developed the vaccine. What are you talking about? I'm flagged. Okay, we can't talk about it.
Donald
It
Trump
just
developed the vaccine.
hold on. Stop talking about it. I just got a violation for election integrity. So
Yeah,
like,
so fake, was it? Did he have fake electorate schemes?
okay,
or
bro,
no?
stop talking about it. Okay, I'm not
talking
trying to get the
about it.
live taken down.
Yeah, stop talking about it. Yeah, okay, very convenient.
I'm
Alright,
sorry, TikTok doesn't like us
okay,
having
we can-
free speech. My bad, dude. My bad. TikTok
Alright,
doesn't
we
like
can-
free
we can- we
speech.
can-
It's not my
We can
fault.
switch. We can switch topics, bro. We can switch topics.
Okay, let's talk
how
about-
the no new wars.
No, okay, we can talk about why Iran is a very justified war. Do you think
Okay,
that a
but he said
country
no
should be able to
war.
attack American citizens and get away with it?
Okay, no.
Do you think Iran actually attacked American citizens? Would you accept that?
And what scenario are you referring to?
Just it's a yes or no question. I mean, we could use examples of proxies
Oh.
and T organizations. They didn't. You don't
No,
think
I'm saying
Iran?
that they shouldn't be able to do that.
Okay, so should the United States retaliate when some foreign agency or foreign nation attacks American citizens?
Tax, like
Mm-hmm.
a federal tax.
Attacked.
It depends on the scenario.
Okay. By the way, Iran has over since 1979, according to what would be the source? United Against Nuclear Iran. Iran has killed over 1,000 Americans since 1979, and in the 30 months before like the Epic Fury, Iran attacked American service members and diplomats. I think it's 350 times, about 350 times. That's according to I think it was
What qualifies an attack on American soil?
Bradley Cooper. That's according to Bradley Cooper. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh my gosh, bro. Is YouTube still on? No shot. Completely forgot YouTube was still on. Goodness gracious. Oh, it does work. How do I like refresh? It says my appeal is gone now, so I don't really understand what's going on here. By the way, dude, I'm sick and tired of debating January 6th in 2020 election. I'm about to just go to full on conservative points and that's it. Like, I'm not even going to endorse Trump. I'm so tired of talking about him. Maybe I should talk about, maybe I should be a Democrat. I don't know. Here, I'm going to, how do I close it, dude? Okay. What is, oh, shoot. Okay. All right. Shoot. I don't know what's going on right now. All right. I got to re-clip everything. What in God's green? What is going on, dude? Okay. All right. I put the blue hat on because I'm going to be a Democrat now. I don't really know how I'm going to debate transgenderism as a Democrat, though. It's a really, 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 really hard talking point when you're supporting it. All right, everybody, I'm back. Golly, I'm tired of this. I'm genuinely just so tired of this. Prim, add me. You have to request up. Dude, request up, dude. Chill. I just invited you.
Oh my god, Jay Shans.
Prim,
Dude, those freaking liberals, dude.
I'm a liberal now. Can't you read?
What the freak?
I just became a liberal. That's
Oh,
why I'm wearing
yeah.
a blue hat. Bro, what is so funny? Always giggling and stuff.
You just switched up.
Well, I always switch up. That's like my thing. Like I'm like everybody. Like I just don't agree with anybody.
Dude, Nathan just sent me this.
He
Bro.
sent you the TikTok?
No, he sent me this live. I'm about to send it to him now.
Yes. Wait, how is Nathan in? I don't even follow Nathan.
I don't even know how you found this account.
Dude's so weird.
James, bro, was that his name?
I think so. That dude was annoying. Bro, I'm telling you, some of these people just like are rage baiting. It's actually so annoying. Trump is goated. All right. Listen,
Oh, yeah.
I'm debating against a Trump supporter. I was literally just a Trump supporter like 5 minutes ago.
Is he
All right,
gonna
Trump is
speak or
goated.
what?
What's your age?
Yeah, I'm 18.
Why do you support Trump?
I mean, I have significant issues with him. One, I'm an old school Republican and a capitalist. He does not, by any stretch of the imagination, especially on economics, conform with either one of the ideologies. So that's my biggest issues with him.
I think I've heard you before. You sound very familiar. I don't know if I debated
Yeah,
you
he
or
sounds
listened
like
to your
my
debate.
friend Gemini.
I've been on plenty of lives before. I've been on plenty of lives.
You've been you've been on plenty of lives? Oh, okay. Yeah, you might have been on here.
I've debated Parker. I've been on plenty of lives already.
I've debated Parker too. He's not really as good as he seems.
I agree. He's an idiot. I agree entirely on that.
So you support his economic policy? Is that what you support Trump's economic policy?
No, I said I disagree with his economic policy.
So why do you think Trump is goated then?
Well, I mean, I support him on foreign policy, but I mean, again, my biggest issue with him, I would assume you're a pro-Trumper, and again, I disagree with Trump on economics. I'm an old school Republican, and I'm a capitalist. He's not either one of them, so I disagree with him on that.
Well, I would say, actually, right now I don't support Trump. Like, I'd support Trump. I always support Trump tomorrow, but right now I don't. So I would say that Trump, actually, I think his economic policy is one of his strongest policies. Contrary to his other things, I don't think his foreign policy is as good as his economic policy. His economic policy being the one big, beautiful bill. And the problems with his foreign policy is that he got us into the Iran war.
I just heard you arguing for the Iran war like not even 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know.
No.
What is this guy talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Sure. But yeah, on foreign policy, I agree with defunding Ukraine. I think we should have done that a long time ago. I agree with the war with Iran. And yeah,
You support funding Ukraine?
defunding.
Oh,
I think
defunding.
we
Oh,
should
that's
get
what I
rid of
say.
funding.
Like, that doesn't really, that doesn't add up. I would say the Iran war shouldn't have ever started. I think Obama's JCPOA was a much better deal to be under than us attacking and wasting billions and tens of billions of dollars, federal dollars, on this war that has unalived hundreds of schoolgirls and other innocent people. Is continuing to destroy Iran. I think the better situation, or the better thing we could have done, is just allow there to be a revolution or allow the people to take over their country.
Okay, so can you prove that it was a Tomahawk missile?
Can you prove what?
That it was a Tomahawk missile that struck the school in Manab.
I would say it was more. I think it was Israel actually that did it. But I've read.
Israel
I believe it
doesn't have a
was
Tomahawk
BBC. It was the BBC that clarified.
Again, I'm asking you to prove it, not repeat the statement. I'm asking you to prove it.
I would just. I mean, my source would just be like BBC or PBS. I don't think I have the obligation or the authority to say it was actually this. Most definitely, because I'm a researcher in military. Like, I can't really make that, and I don't think that unless you like gave me credentials.
Provide evidence for a claim. You can't.
No,
prove
I'd
a
say
claim
that I'd say my evidence would come from either PBS, BBC, or like another source, not me directly saying that this is true, or like Amnesty International. Like, I can't make the claim that it was certainly this, simply because I'm not an expert
They
in the
have
field.
no concrete evidence. Amnesty International has no concrete evidence that it was a Tomahawk missile.
But even regardless, you would have to agree that there's going to be innocent bystanders that are unalive due to this. Like, would you agree that there's
that happens all the time in war?
That's why we
There's
should.
never one war where Innocent lives are not lost.
Yeah,
It's not how
exactly. I
war
think
works.
that's why we got to be careful with what war we go to and what war we don't go into. That's why I think that this war wouldn't have happened had we just stayed under the Obama's JCPOA, right? The war wouldn't have ended, or the war wouldn't have started had we just continued to allow Iran to exist, but not allow them to have their nuclear weapons, which was set to expire, I think, in 2030. That's when the actual deal would have
2025.
expired. We
It
could have
was
just renewed
scheduled
it. There's some parts that
2020.
were expired in 2025, but the actual uranium buildup would have expired in 2030. We could have just renewed that, right? But this is all I'm saying is that we're now risking American lives, more American lives that have already been lost, to attack a foreign nation, which we already don't have much success in the Middle East, having regime changes. Would you say what would you say is the main reason we should be in Iran right now?
Yeah, so a couple things. One, the people of Iraq actually seem to be doing a lot better now that Saddam is no longer around. So that's number one. Second of all, they did violate the uranium cap. Actually, they violated it after we left, and they violated it before we left. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they still violated the JCPOA regardless.
We could have
So there's that. And legally speaking, once they violated it, the snapback mechanism would automatically incur, and they would automatically have sanctions put on them by the UN.
So I would say that Iran never built a nuke under the JCPOA. Okay, so this idea that they're building up and they were doing too much, they were technically not abiding by the JCPOA. The entire idea of the JCPOA is preventing this crazy country from developing a nuclear weapon, and it did so successfully because they never developed a nuclear weapon. Would you agree with that?
Nobody ever said that they had one. Like, not a single person ever said
No, I
that
didn't
they
make
had
that
a
claim.
nuclear weapon.
I'm just making the claim that the entire purpose of the JCPOA was to prevent them from getting a nuclear weapon, right? So if they
That they
never
don't
got the
have.
nuclear weapon, there was a successful deal.
Wait. Again, you need to have 90% enrichment in order to have a nuclear weapon, like what we dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You have to have 90%. If you're only at 60, which, by the way, the highest they've ever gotten was select particles being at 83%, which is very close to 90. Yeah, that's not 90 yet. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they still violated the uranium enrichment cap. They still violated the agreement. And last time I checked, you don't violate an agreement and then bitch and fucking moan when it backfires on you.
So they violated the JCPOA, right? But the entire purpose of the JCPOA was to prevent them from having a nuclear weapon. It did that successfully. Like it's an objective fact that they didn't build a nuke while the JCPOA was. In fact, they've gotten closer to a nuclear weapon under the Trump administration, without the JCPOA, with both nations withdrawing from it.
Under Joe Biden. And Iran never withdrew from the JCPOA. They allowed it to sunset. They never withdrew from the JCPOA. They remained within it till it sunsetted it in October.
It was set to expire in 2030.
It sunsetted in October of 2025. That's when the agreement sunsetted. Look into the agreement.
No, there's still parts of the agreement that weren't set to expire yet.
Right. And Iran remained within the agreement. They have yet to leave. They haven't left.
This because the United States left. They're doing this because the United States left. Would you say that they were building up nuclear weapons in the summer of 2025, right? Do you think that they would have been building up their uranium? They were developing uranium during June or July of 2025. That's when we came in and destroyed that.
Before that.
So had we in the United States
weapons grade. Wait, host. They reached weapons grade in 2021. They reached weapons grade at 20% in 2021, and they reached up to 40 come 2023, and then the 60% came 2025. They were already weapons grade before Trump came into office.
No, it's because Trump withdrew from the JCPOA in his first term. That's why they were able to do that.
They were still within it. Wait, yes, they were still within it with 4 other countries.
The main enforcer was the United States. Russia's not going to enforce it. There's one of the other countries. I think, was it Germany or the United Kingdom that was the other country? They're not going to enforce the JCPOA. They're not going to enforce the United States. The United States has always enforced things. And if the main police officer of the world leaves, obviously it's going to tell them, okay, we don't have to abide by this either.
Oh, my Lord. Host, 1, Germany was not in the agreement. Second of all, it was the Russian Federation, China, the UK, and France were all within the agreement. And last time I checked, just because one party leaves, which, by the way, they violated it before we left, That's why Trump left. That's when the snapback mechanism ended up occurring, and that's when sanctions were automatically put back in. Because as per UN Resolution 11331, my apologies, 1181, the snapback mechanism means that if a significant violation was reported by any signatory state within the JCPOA against Iran, all UN sanctions from the 7 prior UN resolutions prior to UN Resolution 1131 would automatically come back into play. Iran knew about that. They still violated the agreement. So don't bitch and moan when you violate it and then repercussions occur.
This is what I would say, though. It was successful in what it was doing. The entire purpose of the JCPOA was preventing them from developing uranium. They violated it a little bit. I would say that Trump withdrawing from it instead of strengthening it and saying, okay, Iran, you got to lock in right now or else we're going to drop a bomb on you or whatever. Instead of doing that, he just withdrew entirely and that was the end of it. Then they continued to build up uranium. It would only give them the green light to continue to do what they're doing, which actually put our country at more of at risk under the Biden administration.
Sorry, repeat the last portion of what you just said.
So
I
the
want you to listen to it.
The JCPOA, right, it was successful to an extent of what it was doing. It prevented them from actually ever getting a nuclear weapon. They break the rules a little bit by developing uranium, right? Then Trump comes in and says, okay, we're out. If you're going to do that, we're out. We get out of the JCPOA. Now, no one's there to enforce it. The United Kingdom and France surely aren't going to enforce it. Neither is Russia or China. So Iran starts building up their uranium because why not? The main enforcer is not there anymore. Only that all that does is put the United States, along with other allies, more at risk because now Iran has a nuclear or is developing uranium to eventually get a nuclear weapon. Okay, if the United States withdraws from the JCPOA, do you think that puts us more or less at risk of an Iranian nuclear weapon?
Well, so you're missing a couple other violations. They also had heavy water violations, and they had centrifuges violations as well, all prior to when we pulled out. And then it happened even further after we pulled out. So again, they had uranium enrichment violations before we pulled out. They violated it on heavy water. That was reported by the IAEA and by the UN, and Department of State at that too. And they had the centrifuges violation as well before we pulled out, which occurred even further after we pulled out.
So why would the solution be to withdraw?
Why should we be in an agreement that's already been violated on the part of the main signatory state?
Because then we strengthen the relation. We strengthen the enforcement. We can't just say, okay, if you're going to violate it, we'll just let you violate it. We're just going to leave. That's the weakest thing you can do. If your entire goal is to prevent this dangerous country from putting our country at risk because they're going to develop a nuclear weapon, then the best thing you could do is to strengthen the enforcement of making sure they don't develop uranium and strengthening the other rules within the JCPOA. Withdrawing entirely is the weakest move you can make on the board.
What? Oh my God, Lord Almighty. Okay, I'm just gonna ask you a simple question then. If that is true, what do you think Trump should have done? What grand old scheme should he have done to prevent Iran from getting to the 60% enrichment? Actually, the weapons grade enrichment that he had under Biden.
Threatening sanctions.
Wait, threatening the sanctions?
Continue to sanction them. Continue to threaten sanctions, continue to militarize, and you threaten to attack them like we did in July, which I would say temporarily, what we did in July was actually a pretty necessary thing to prevent them from developing more uranium. But there's so many things Trump could have done that would not just mean leaving Iran by themselves to develop their own uranium.
Yeah, this is how I know you're confused, because once we left, when the snapback mechanism came into play, the UN sanctions from prior to the JCPOA being signed automatically fell into place directly back onto Iran. And funnily enough, if you're stating, oh, we should threaten sanctions, so on and so forth, to prevent them from, doing this uranium enrichment bullshit that they were doing, then the sanctions coming in full force from the 7 prior UN resolutions against Iran before the JCPOA was signed should have kept them at bay. But they didn't keep them at bay because at the end of the day, they still got to 20% enrichment, which is weapons grade, come 2021, 2022, 2023 with 40%, 2026, my apologies, 2025 was 60%.
I I would say a safer America and a better position that we would be in is if we were not only sanctioning Iran or threatening to sanction Iran for what they've done, but us also being in the JCPOA so we have more enforcement over their uranium levels, because they have less enforcement over their uranium levels when the United States withdraws from the JCPOA. You could say the sanctions are good because the United States left, and sanctions are good in preventing countries from developing uranium or whatever. That's my initial, like, what Trump could have done. But I would say that the best position you could have been in would have been not only were there sanctions on Iran, there have been United States within the JCPOA as well, so there's a stronger enforcement of the rules that would prevent them from having uranium. Which you could argue, I mean, it was not very successful. The United States left because sanctions didn't do a very good job at preventing them from getting uranium because they got the uranium.
Right. While they were still in an agreement that wait, I'm gonna ask you this
No
simple
one
question.
enforced it though because the United States left.
Wait. That's also not true. That you do understand that that's not necessarily true, because even when the U.S. was within the agreement, they were still violating it. So the enforcement strategy that you're talking about, even if the U.S. remained in play, the violation still would have ended up occurring. Just because the
wouldn't
U.S.
have
left, that doesn't mean it. Wait, they were violating it with us even being in there. What are you
When the
talking about?
Yes, because the United States didn't do a good enough job at punishing them for what they've done. Punishing them isn't just leaving and putting sanctions on them; it's also having military threats on Iran. That's another thing you could do to prevent them from developing uranium. There's other things you can do than simply just leaving the JCPOA so sanctions can
We
fall
had
upon them later
military
on.
threats already there. We have some of the biggest military buildups within the region as of late, especially back in 2017, because we were still dealing with ISIS to no fucking end within Syria and Iraq. So we had the biggest military buildup within the Middle East in a number of decades. Israel was doing their thing. The Saudis and the UAE are constant battleheads with Iran constantly. So again, this sort of like thing of, we just need to threaten them more. Yeah, we threatened them enough. They still violated it, even with us threatening them to no end.
So then why don't we just attack them then?
Attack them then when we were busy dealing with ISIS?
You
want us to attack them when
What
we're
are you
busy
talking about?
dealing with
The ISIS, the entire Middle East has died out so much. The only other real, I guess, big threat we had at the time was, I guess, the Taliban with in Afghanistan. But even then,
ISIS.
we had to what?
When did
ISIS?
the ISIS caliphate? Yeah, when did the ISIS caliphate first get established, and when did it end?
You tell me, pal.
It first got established in 2016 and ended in 2018. We were dealing with ISIS for 2 fucking years. One of the worst, which by the way, Iran was also against ISIS. So ever heard of the phrase, the enemy of my enemy is my friend?
Yeah,
That
it's
comes into
not a
play
true
here.
statement. It's not a true statement at all.
Oh, what's wrong? What did I say that's wrong? Tell me.
Yeah, you think the Soviet Union and the United States should be allies? Should have been allies after the war?
After, what relevance does that have to do here?
You're talking about
And no, I don't
enemies.
think
The
we
enemy
should.
of my enemy is my friend. No, not if my enemy is also a country that hates me.
You do understand that when ISIS is a threat to both countries, both the United States and Iran, at the end of the day, you would have to put aside your political differences to be able to get rid of the biggest perceived threat. Just like in World War
It doesn't
II,
make
I'll
you
put it this way.
friends. It doesn't make you allies.
I never said that.
You did.
Oh
You
my
said the
lord,
enemy of my enemy is my friend.
please don't tell me you've never heard of that saying before.
I've heard
Come
that
on.
saying before, but it's untrue, like I just said. And you kind of are. I
Yes,
guess you're accepting that.
The term "enemy of my enemy is my friend" just means that you could put aside your differences for the set given moment to accomplish a given goal, and then after the given goal is accomplished, then you guys could go back to doing whatever the fuck you guys were doing prior.
So then why don't we just attack them after 2018?
Attack them in 2018.
After.
I wonder. Yeah, I wonder what sort of benefit would that have offered us to attack them in 2018?
A relatively similar situation would be going on right now. I mean, it's us attacking them to prevent them from having a nuclear weapon.
Oh, it would have had the same sort of, generalized international optics that already, pointed directly at us. The international situation would have, been much more beneficial to us, really.
It'd be the same situation. It's us not being in the JC. I think we withdrew from the JCPOA in 2019.
2018.
So yeah, sometime around after we withdrew. What's the difference between now and then? Except they've only built up uranium, which we knew what would happen because No one's there to enforce the JCPOA except France and United Kingdom. Like, obviously, they're
Yeah,
not going to
I'll
enforce
tell
it.
you. Yeah, I'll tell you. By the way, the UK and France were also trying to enforce it. Either way, so yeah, I'm
They
gonna
did
tell
a good
you.
job.
Yeah, and so in the United States, but you're not bitching about us on that. But either way, so again, I'll tell you what was the biggest stopper as to why we didn't go in. International optics. The main reason why is because the JCPOA was still a relatively fresh deal, and if we ended up striking Iran, for whatever the reason may be, that would have made us to be like the biggest piece of shit, and that would have completely squandered everything. Because at the end of the day, how do you think the United States would look on the international playing field if we'd signed a recent deal, and then not even 3 years later, so 7 years or 7 to 10 years before it's supposed to sunset, we decided to be like, yeah, you know what, let's just strike Iran and fuck the deal entirely. How
So
do you
now,
think that makes us look?
well, I
On the
don't think it's
international
at
playing
this
field?
point. I don't think it would be relevant because now all of a sudden we care about what the world looks like to us, looks like at us. Be the same situation right now. How does the world look at us when we're attacking Iran right now, and we've attacked Venezuela? We've done that. America doesn't look that good right now. America
Yeah,
looks
with
pretty bad.
with Venezuela, when we also figured out that Hezbollah and Hamas were also doing their stupidity within the region, let alone the PLO, with Fatah, their armed wing. So, and let alone the fact that China and Russia were both, putting in like missile and drone parts within Venezuela, let alone Cuba. That's also, and the
It's
fact
not
that
my
we took out the
point,
Maduro regime. We
dude.
took out the Maduro regime that brought in drugs into the United States and so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean
You're
that
actually
gave
proving
us,
my point. You're actually
what?
proving my point that we
Well,
shouldn't really look at what the world looks at us how we shouldn't take that into consideration. We should dismiss that and look at what actually happens, the actual policy, or I guess not policy, but the actual things that come about from attacking Venezuela or attacking Iran. What we look like isn't necessarily as important as what actually comes about after we attack these countries.
wait, again, you do understand that if, let's say, we ended up attacking Iran and we got done what we wanted to get done, and we overthrew the Ayatollah regime, we got rid of their nuclear capabilities, and then turns out that every last country on the planet decided to say fuck you to the United States and kind of throw us under the bus. Now we have no allies. Now we're just sat there in the middle of the fucking ocean with nobody to protect us.
You think
We're now on our own. You
think the
think that's a
entire
good
world
thing
would
for us to
abandon
be on
us if
our
we
own?
attacked Iran in 2018?
I could guarantee you more than half the planet would have. NATO wouldn't have supported us.
NATO never
Russia and China
supports
sure as
us.
fuck would have.
NATO's not supporting us in
Well, that's
Iran
also
right
not
now.
true. Yeah, again, you saying that NATO never supports us would be false. They helped us in Afghanistan, and they also partially
They
helped us in
do.
Iraq twice. But either way, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. They were
It's
legally
a deal we
obligated
shouldn't
to
be in.
help
We
us,
shouldn't
and
be
they
in
did.
NATO. We should not be in NATO.
Yeah,
They do not help us nearly as much as we put into NATO. Right. So the idea
yeah.
that NATO doesn't help us out, they don't usually help us out, and we're not really getting our money's worth for putting in hundreds of billions of dollars to this organization that helped us a little bit in Afghanistan and other parts of the Middle East. Is it really worth
Yeah,
it?
they helped us in Afghanistan. They helped us in Syria. They helped us in Iraq. They helped us in Yemen. Let's keep going. What else? They have been helping us out with the Ukraine situation. Granted, do I support it? Not really, but I understand why they're doing it. So on and so forth. So again, they have been helping us out, and with this NATO funding bullshit, more often than not, NATO actually does meet the requirements on how much they're supposed to fund in reference to like GDP type of thing. So yeah, I don't know where you're getting half the shit from. You kind of you're now starting to sound like you're for Trump because Trump wants to pull out of NATO, right?
Well, I mean, you can probably tell I'm not kind of switch around what my beliefs are depending on the day. So I'd say that Trump simply agreeing with Trump on one policy doesn't necessarily make me a Trump supporter. But yeah,
You're
withdrawing from
agreeing
NATO
on
would be important.
economics too, even though Trump is a moron then.
Hold on, if you think that NATO, wouldn't that be a point for against Trump though? If you think we should be in NATO and Trump doesn't want us to be in NATO, wouldn't that give you a reason to not support him?
I already told you I disagree with Trump on a lot.
Yeah.
I'm an old school Republican and I'm a capitalist. He's definitely not one of them. He has yet to completely defund Ukraine, which he said that he would. He has yet to do a lot of stuff that I would like him to do. So I don't agree with Trump on everything. Damn right I don't.
Trump can't fully defund Ukraine.
Say it again?
Trump cannot fully defund Ukraine. That would be more like a Congress thing.
Yeah, and last time I checked, while Congress, yes, could allocate spending because who holds the power of the purse? Congress. Trump and the president in general has the ability to sign or veto spending bills, which last time I checked, the House just recently passed a spending bill. Then it's going to go to the Senate, and Trump already guaranteed, given his prior rhetoric towards funding Ukraine, will more than likely sign the spending bill into fruition. So, yeah.
Hold
I
on.
mean, last time I checked, again, he could have said no, but that I doubt that's even
Trump,
going to happen.
the spending and contributions from the United States towards Ukraine has dropped 99%, according to the Kiev Independent and the Council of Foreign Relations. So what are you talking
For what
about?
day? What month? What month?
This one
What
was
month?
posted
What
in
month of
February
what
of 2026. This one was posted in March of 2026.
And when did the most recent spending bill? When did that get passed by the
This
House?
one was posted in June of 2026. Most recent spending bill
Yeah, like the most recent
proposed.
spending bill that's been deliberated under by the House, let alone almost. Yeah,
Wait, are
that's more recent, isn't it? Not in February, no.
no,
Right.
what month are you talking about? A proposed bill? What are you talking about? Which specific bill has been passed?
Hello?
Are you lagging right now?
You're cutting out. We're cutting out.
Can you hear me now?
You're lagging.
I'm lagging really bad. Can you hear me?
Now again.
All right. Wait, okay. I don't think I'm lagging anymore. So, when was the actual bill passed?
I never said it was passed.
Okay, so
Repeat
it's
to me what I
proposed.
stated. I'm waiting.
It was you said a
Repeat to me what
proposed
I
bill.
stated.
I'm doing that right now. So it was a proposed bill which hasn't been signed into law, but for some reason you think that automatically that means we're going to send funding to Ukraine, even though we don't even know if it's going to be passed or not. It was simply proposed, right? So I don't really understand what your point is there.
And what's his prior rhetoric? Like, let's take when he decided to pause funding in the middle of last year, which also, by the way, just really quick, anarchism, whatever the fuck your name is, his first impeachment was in reference to the fact that he tried to pause unilaterally Obama-era funding to Ukraine. Had nothing to do with funding on his own. Had to do with everything that he wanted to pause Obama-era funding. So that was his sort of issue. So read more into that. But either way, going back to you, host. So yeah, if we talk about when he tried to pause funding to Ukraine after when he first came into office via EO or executive order, what did he say right after? He decided to go with funding again afterwards. He decided to unpause it obviously because he had to legally do it, but also because he wanted Ukraine to have more funding. He said that verbatim. I would like Ukraine, and I regret not giving Ukraine more stuff. Let's talk about in July and August of 2025, when he ended up stating that he would be partially willing to give Ukraine long-range missiles. Granted, he defaulted on that, but either way.
Exactly.
So
that's the point.
He has a lot of rhetoric that points out to the fact that, yeah, he would like to fund Ukraine, and I can't stand that.
He's not doing that though. What's the problem with him doing it if he's not doing it?
Yeah, what's the problem with him having rhetoric? And what's the problem? Because last time I checked,
When was the last time you even mentioned that?
Give me a second. Again, we've been dealing with a lot more pressing issues other than Ukraine as of late. So he hasn't really mentioned Ukraine because, to be quite frank with you, nobody really cares about it unless you're in Congress and you're a dummy. But either way, apart from that, nobody really cares about Ukraine. But yeah, again, last time I checked, when you have rhetoric throughout the entire campaign trail saying we're going to completely defund Ukraine, which he didn't do. When you have rhetoric saying that we're going to completely defund Ukraine and stop the funding, and then you end up defaulting on the rhetoric and saying, and now going rhetorical and being like, yeah, we will continue funding Ukraine, and we might end up giving them long-range missiles, so on and so forth. One, that was an empty promise. He said that he was going to do something, knowing that he couldn't do it. And two, he defaulted on the rhetoric from his campaign trail.
Why are you complaining about him defaulting? If you're talking about defaulting on anything, then no new wars would be a pretty good argument of him defaulting on anything. So him defaulting on something which you don't support, why is that a bad thing? Like him not doing something that you don't want to do.
Him defaulting on the fact that he said that he would stop all funding to Ukraine even though he couldn't do it.
He did. He stopped 99% funding.
he stopped all of it, even though there hasn't been a single there hasn't been a single spending bill that has hit his desk since coming into office in January of last
already
year.
told you this. I already gave you the source.
Again, you can. Oh my god, dude! If there is no spending bill that has been put in front of him in the Oval Office, then there's no way for him to sign any more spending into law. You know that. You understand that, right?
There's still some spending things, right? The Congress can
Joe
sign without
Biden.
actually being a spending. What?
The spending that's still in effect to this day is Joe Biden era spending.
No spending is going on at all. According to the Kiev Independent, according to the Council on Foreign Relations, President Trump has halted almost all direct contributions and requests for new Ukraine spending, resulting in an estimated 99% of drop in new U.S. military aid and leaving a massive gap in Kiev's total anticipated funding.
And this is how I know you have not read Jackson to the topic, because based on Trump's most recently proposed budget, you have close to 118 million or billion, whatever the fuck the number is, going to Ukraine, because that's Biden era spending, which he cannot legally override.
400 million annually. Yeah.
Okay, correction. 400 million, whatever the fuck the number is, still in the millions.
Yes, over the next 2 years, it'd be $800 million, according to Atlantic Council. So it's a proposed budget that we don't even know if it's going to be signed. It's $800 million, which is a very, very, very small fraction in what President Biden gave them of $150 billion. To be honest, yeah, sure, I don't support him sending any money to Ukraine, but at least there's some sort of pressure on Russia so they can actually end this war. Don't you think that President Trump's initial goal...
completely defund them. He said he completely defund them.
Do you think that he did do that, though?
Oh, he completely defunded, yet we're still sending partial money. Even though, again, legally he cannot override it, but we still... Wait a second. If you're going to say completely, 1% is not complete. You understand that, right?
So we sent like $1 to Ukraine, you'd still be upset?
If we still send... Yeah, I'm supporting getting rid of all funding entirely.
Okay. This is such a small issue, such a minuscule issue.
That's what he said. He said that he would do it.
Yeah,
he said that he would do it.
Sorry, it was 99% and not 100%. Okay. Sorry.
So he lied then, right? He lied when he said that he wouldn't. When he said that he would.
That's why you shouldn't support him. Yeah, he did lie. That's why you shouldn't support him, along with his other foreign policy issues like no wars.
Yeah, I support him on Iran. I mean,
apart from, it doesn't matter.
I support Venezuela. Yeah, I understand. All politicians lie. That's never going to be anything new here. I back Russia, and I sometimes support Putin. He lies all the time. That's
you back new. Russia? Why do you back Russia?
Against Ukraine? Damn right I do. Why? I think Putin is an idiot in the way that he handled the war. But, I mean,
why would you
back them entirely.
How does the United States gain from Russia attacking Ukraine?
Me supporting Russia against Ukraine has nothing to do with what the United States gained out of Russia invading Ukraine. You understand that, right?
Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't understand why you would want our country that's already competing with the United States to gain more power.
Yeah, because last time I checked, we backed Russia into a corner. We helped overthrow Ukraine's two democratically elected leaders, Yushchenko and Yanukovych. We forced them out of power. And then we decided to set up NATO military bases directly on Russia's border, something that we promised that we wouldn't do, and Russia asked us not to do. We still did it anyway, so on and so forth. And now we have missiles pointed directly at Moscow, directly at the capital. So yeah, there's a lot.
With that, I would say that's more of a former president issue, though. I would say that's... I mean, one could argue that the reason the war ever started was because Kamala Harris went to the Munich Security Conference in 2022 and said that we got to get Ukraine into NATO. I would say that'd be a reason for Russia to be instigated into the war, but I wouldn't say that the United States should then support Russia's doings in the war. I
never said that we should support them. Oh my God, I'm just saying
I support Russia. You just said that you backed them.
I back Russia in the war with Ukraine. I don't think... When did I ever say I think America should support Russia against Ukraine?
You're supporting them. When I support something, I assume that the rest of America would also support it, and America would be better if everyone supported it. Right? But let's change the wording. Let's change the wording. You root for Russia. That would be a better term, right?
Yes. I support Russia against Ukraine. Fuck. That's not a confusing thing to understand that.
Is it because that Russia felt like they were threatened and that they should be able to retaliate, even though they're now putting America. Let's say they were successful, America would now be like competing with Russia for like more power, more global influence.
We already have more influence in Europe than Russia would ever have. So I mean, that doesn't really do anything to them anyway.
So Russia gaining power. What about China? Do you think if China took over Taiwan, would that not be an issue with the United States because there would be
Oh no,
another
no, that
global
would.
superpower gaining more power?
Oh no, no. Now, granted, I think Taiwan is part of China, but at the end of the day, I think
What?
we should defend Taiwan.
Are you
Granted,
China? Are you a member of the CCP?
you know that the U.S. also recognizes China as the de facto government over Taiwan. You know that, right? We've
care.
operated under the One China policy since 1979.
I don't
Oh,
care.
you don't care?
Why does that
Oh,
matter?
you don't care?
Like,
Oh, you
what,
don't
what
care
does
that the
that
United States
mean?
also
It was
operates?
a group of people fled the country and started their own country on that island, right? They have their own independent
Yeah,
government. They have their own
in
independent
civil war.
people. And now, for some reason, because there's some law in the United States or whatever, the United States views Taiwan as China. That doesn't affect my opinion. My personal opinion is that Taiwan is not the
22.
same
I
country as
agree.
China.
I agree. Well, by the way, again, at the end of the day, 22 countries recognize Taiwan. Over 150 recognize China as sole legal government, and at the end of the day, I think that
Care.
we should defend Taiwan. Yeah, maybe if you learn to listen, you would hear me say that I think we should defend Taiwan. But you keep piping up and acting like you know what you're talking about when you don't. 'Cause
Listen
again,
to
I support
yourself.
backing
What?
Taiwan.
Listen to yourself. You think Taiwan's a part of China, but you support Taiwan, right? You support
I
Russia in
support
the war
backing.
against Ukraine, but you don't want the rest of America to support Russia in the war against Ukraine. Who knows what
Wait
they're
a
talking about?
second.
Not you. You supported no new
Yeah,
wars, and then Trump says, "Okay, let's go attack Iran." Oh, now I support that
yeah.
war. Let's go attack Venezuela. I support that war. Okay, honestly,
You know what?
I think I don't support the idea of
Name me
no new
one thing
wars.
I
I think
said
we should
that's wrong.
attack you.
Yeah,
What?
name me one thing I said that's wrong. I'm waiting because you said I don't know what I'm talking about. Name me
Yeah,
one thing
you're
I said that's wrong. I'm
contradicting
waiting.
yourself, pal. You're contradicting yourself.
Uh-huh.
What you're saying contradicts
Yeah.
what you previously stated.
So let's just do a little bit of explaining because clearly some dumb fuck can't track for the life of him, can he? So
Okay.
let's repeat.
No, you're acting like a little girl now. You're not gonna just insult the host. Like, this is my life, pal. Understand that I'm debating from a perspective I don't even agree with, and I'm still mopping the floor with you. It's kind of embarrassing.
Hello.
What's up? Can I get your age for TikTok purposes?
Yes, I'm 19.
19. All right. What do you want to talk about?
Are you gonna like flip back to your, I guess, MAGA Republican side since I guess there's
Are
not
you
really point in-
are you a Democrat? I guess I'll flip if you want me to. Hold on, let me charge my Mac real quick.
All right, it's cool. Yeah, I mean, I came here originally before it got taken down.
Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah, hold on. I need to add a text that says no, like, election talking, because every time I start talking about election or anything of that nature, it ends up like getting the live taken down. Actually, I don't even know if I could say that because then TikTok might like. I don't know. So I'll just be MAGA. I guess I'll put on my MAGA hat if you want me to.
Perfect. Wow, great hat. All right. I guess I have two things that I would talk about. You can probably pick which one you want. I would either like to discuss no new wars or the third prompt, which is can you change your gender, which I agree with.
Okay, we can
Whichever.
discuss. I've talked about war like literally all day for the past 2 days. No one wanted to talk about the gender thing, so I guess we could talk about gender.
All right, great. Well, I mean, would you mind telling me why I'm going to assume you disagree with it.
I don't think you can change your gender. I think society, even in the argument in the case that we say gender is a social construct, if society comes together and agrees that your gender is based off your sex, then in that situation you can't change your gender because you can't change your sex.
Well, I think gender is both attached and disattached to sex. And I think a good analogy for gender is race. And the reason why this is a good analogy is because gender and race are both really hard to define. And what I mean by this is if I went up to 100 black people and I said, what does it mean for you to be black? They would probably all have a lot of varying answers because you can't really define what it means to be black in one word or one sentence. Just like when people try to ask, what is a woman? There's never going to be one definition of what it means to be a woman because a woman is, it's a social construct. So what's the point of this, right? Is that yes, gender is inherently based on sex, right? Your gender, whether you identify as a man or a woman or somewhere in between, it's based on how society perceives sexes to interact with each other. So when you're changing your gender, you're not necessarily changing your sex. Rather, you're changing how you want to identify yourself based off of how society interprets and interacts with these sexes.
So by that logic, you could change your race,
No. Because
but you can change your gender. You said
because
they're comparable.
Huh?
You said they're comparable and similar, so I was going to say, like, if you can
Oh,
change your gender, you can change your race.
Oh, no. When I say they're comparable, I mean they're comparable in the way that they're constructed because they're both social constructs. Like race and gender are both like completely different. They're just comparable in the way that society views them, I guess.
So, yeah, I would say that just because you want to be viewed differently doesn't give you the ability just to change that thing, I guess. So, like, if society views children differently than they view adults, which we do, that's why the law doesn't apply to children in the same way that it does to adults. You can't just simply say, okay, I feel like a child now. Let me just go identify as a child. Just like, it's the same situation. Like if, let's say I wanted to play in a younger age group for sports, right? I can't just simply say I feel like a younger kid and go play in that sport.
Yeah, that's a good point. However, I would like to point out that they're completely different and that when you're a child and you're an adult, there is a biological difference, right? You cannot become an adult because you obviously are completely different. Like you're biologically built to be different. Now, the
Mhm.
difference with this is that with your gender, the difference is that with your gender, it's not biology, right? It's fluid and that it's a social construct. And so you can't say as a child, like let's say I'm a 7-year-old child, you can't say, oh, I'm an adult, because you're biologically not. Because the definition of an adult is biology, is with age. The definition of gender is not with biology.
Well,
It's based off of gender, but it's based off of Schnex. It's based off of what you were born as, but it's not. So saying you can't, it's a false equivalency.
No, I wouldn't say it's a false equivalency. I'd say because age, you talk about gender being a social construct and then how the age is based off of something biological. Well, yeah, but being an adult is a social construct. Society came together and agreed that 18 or 21, depending on the situation, is considered an adult. That's a society thing. And by the way, you could also argue about the definition in and of itself would be considered a social construct. So the idea that simply being a social construct doesn't really grant you the ability to change different categories.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to go that route, technically everything in life is words mean things because we give them purpose. That's the point of a social construct. But we're not talking about the word adult. We're not talking about the word child. We're talking about what a child actually is and what an adult actually is. And the point is that they are inherently biologically different than each other. But when you look at gender, what gender actually is a social construct. It's not a physical thing you can touch. Rather, it's a perception, it's an expression of how people express themselves in society.
Well, no, I would say that if being a kid is biologically different from being an adult, the word we give, the word we created, kid, refers to younger people. Same thing with adult, but opposite would be the same thing for adults or people that are older. I would say that society has come together for the most part of at least human history, and even in the United States, that a boy is just a younger male and a girl is a younger female. A man is an older male and a woman is an older female. Obviously, talking about specifically the human race, right? So this idea that it's based off of biology, age is based off of biology. Well, so is gender. So is being a man versus being a woman. And I'm sure there's a small group of people that believe otherwise. But that small group of people doesn't get to override what the vast majority of society considers it.
Sorry, what's your point?
My point is that if biology is the determining factor in whether or not you're an adult versus whether or not you're a kid, it'd be the same situation with whether or not you're a man versus whether or not you're a woman. And you can't just change your biology just like that, because society has agreed that men are adult human females and women are adult. Or men are adult human males and women are adult human females. I'm sorry, I'm sleepy. So yeah, this if age is based off of biology, so is gender.
So what I'm saying is that in a way they are both based off of biology. The key difference is that, or I don't even know if biology is the right word. We'll use tangibility, right? Age, it is tangible, right? Or like, I guess, yeah, your status as a person, it is tangible. You can look at this person and you can verify, yes, you have been alive for 7 years on this earth. That is like biologically, empirically, tangibly proven, right? The difference with gender is that, yes, gender is based off of schmex, but it is not schmex in the way that it is not tangible. You cannot grab it, you cannot feel it. So while age is tangible, right? It is a concept, but it's also verifiable by like, you know, I guess tests or just like logic. Like you know, if a 7-year-old is 7 years old. Gender is not that, and that it's a form of expression, right? It's not like tangible. So
Well,
they're both based off.
sex is sex. I don't know if tangible would be the right word. Tangible means, I guess, from what I've understood, it's more like a physical thing. But I would say, like, when you use the word tangible, age and sex are both equally tangible in the sense that they both have an objective fact. Like, you're objectively a male or a female. There's like no in between. You can be intersex, right? But that's not a separate sex. That doesn't make you in between. You're still either a male or a female. You simply being born without certain body parts or without the ability to get pregnant, that would be like a medical problem, and that's the idea that would be evidence that there are only two separate issues. Like, for example, if a male couldn't get pregnant, that would be obvious. But if a woman can't get pregnant, it's because there's some issue. Like, the doctors would come in and take her and test her and see what the issue is, why she couldn't get tested. That's because we've understood as society that there's a binary between male and female. There is no in between there.
Yeah, sure, but what you're talking about is sex. You're not talking about gender, and I get that from your perspective. You just associate them as one another. Like, you associate a man and a male as the same thing. And like, sure, a female can get pregnant, and a male can't get pregnant. But it is possible for someone who is female that identifies as a man to get pregnant, and that's just proof that gender and sex are just like intuitively two different things.
Well,
Like, you have to treat them as if they are related, but you can't treat them as if they're the exact same thing.
they have the same correlation between whether or not you're an 18-year-old and whether or not you're an adult. Your age of whether or not you're above age, right? If you're an 18-year-old and if you're an adult versus you're a kid, that would be based off of your age in the same sense that your gender is based off of your sex. They're based off of one another. If you're going to argue and say that gender is based off your sex, then they'll just be like justifying the idea that gender is binary.
No, well, okay. The reason why I say that gender is based off of sex is because the way that people express themselves is intertwined with how we perceive these sort of binaries. Like for you can look at like the stereotype for men. You know, buff, macho, go to the gym, be super protective, whatever that stereotype is. Then you can look at the stereotype for what women might be: dainty, small, they like pink, they play with dolls or whatever. And these are just perceptions of how society views that people express themselves, right? Based off of their sex. So what a man is based off of what society sees as how males interact with the rest of the world. And what a woman is based off of society's like view on how females interact with themselves. That's why I made the comparison of gender to race, is because you cannot put like the definition of a man or the definition of woman in a box, is because it's a form of expression, right? When you're saying I'm a man, you're saying I identify with how society views males, and how I view males and how I want to express myself. So they're not binary. It's not.
If it's based off of how society perceives them to be. So it'd be things like being like liking pink, I guess, and having, I guess, long hair would be another one. So by that logic, if that's exactly what a man is, it's how society views what males ought to act like, then a tomboy, a girl that acts like a man, would then be considered a man because they're fitting into the classification of what your definition is. And I feel like you're also missing a key part of what this social construct is. The key issues here is that the vast majority of society, which gives social constructs its value, gives the idea that your gender is based off of your sex and that you can't change your sex and you can't change your gender. So would you agree that the vast majority of society does not believe you can change your gender?
I can't speak for the vast majority of society, but I can say that there's a big part of society that disagrees and a big portion of society that agrees.
I think it's Pew Research that did the study that showed that I think it's around 69 to 70% of Americans believe that you cannot change your gender and your gender is based off of your sex. If that's what society views, right, then that would mean that the social construct, which we give value, would mean that your gender would be based off your sex because we say that's what it means because we as society has agreed about that, agreed to that.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, gender is
So,
based off of sex.
so in today's society, then your gender would be based off your sex.
Yes, that's exactly right. Your gender is not your sex, but it
No,
is
that's what
based
society agree. No, society believes that it is your sex. Like sex and gender are like intertwined; they're the same thing.
but that's just not true.
But that's what society has agreed upon. And when we're talking about social ideas, things like gender and just age and whether or not being 18 is really an adult or not, it'd be the same situation. If society comes together and says that 18 is an adult, then we agree that 18 is an adult. You can't argue and say I feel like I'm 19, I feel like I'm 20, I feel like I'm 17, I feel like I'm 16. What society says this is the law. Now that's the law. It'd be the same situation with society saying that if you're a male and you're an adult and you're a human, you're a man. You can't change your way around it. Sure, you can act feminine, but you're still a male at the end of the day, and that's one of the key issues. That's the key issue and key definition of what a man is. It's the sex, not the attributes.
The point of having gender as a social construct. When I say that gender is a social construct, I don't mean that one day a group of people came and they sat in a circle and they're like, hey guys, let's invent gender. And everyone was like, yay. No, gender developed along with like historical times and along with the progression of history because people needed to have a definition for the way that people express themselves according to sex, right? And so to say that, sure, even if a majority of people disagree that you can change your gender, that's not the point. The point is that gender in and of itself exists. The point is that that is a social construct, that whether or not you agree that it can be changed, you likely agree that it can exist. And so, what history is Alex?
It seems to me that gender is just a personality to you. It seems to me that it's fully based off of how you feel and how you want society to interact with you. So, like right now, I look like a dude. If I just say I feel like a girl, am I a girl now? Did I just am like I want society to look at me as a girl? Am I a girl now?
I don't think it's as simple as that, and I don't think that's how
Why
like
not? I mean, your definition was like how you want to be perceived by society. Now all of a sudden, I want to be perceived as a girl. Now everyone has to treat me like a girl, even though it completely contradicts how I look, how I act, how I sound. Everything about me is based off of my attributes are based off of my sex, my biological male attributes, right? And that's one of the key issues. Sure, you can change them. You can put some hormones in your body, but at the end of the day, you're still going to be that biological sex that you cannot change. Like, sure, you could say gender is based, it's how society interacts with you, but if society exclusively interacts with you based off of your sex, and that's it, not based off of your personality or how you want to be perceived, then you'd have to agree that you cannot change your gender because for the sole reason that you can't change your sex.
Well, I think the difference between you saying, "Oh, hey, I'm a girl, everyone treat me like a girl now," is that that's not typically how transgender people interact with society. And what I mean by that is if you are a male and you're saying, or sorry, if you're a man and you're like, "Okay, I want to be a woman, I want to express myself as a woman," you're likely going to take steps to change your appearance, to change how you express yourself because that's how you believe that that's how you align yourself more. So sure, you could say, I want to express myself as a girl," but it obviously wouldn't mean anything since you don't actually.
I mean, what if I don't though? Like in a situation, like not everyone follows their desires, right? Not everyone follows their desires. So is there's like a set limit of like I have to get plastic surgery and I have to get breast implants and I have to grow out my hair and get surgery on my body in order to become the other gender? Like do I have to castrate myself or is it just a personality thing?
Wait, 1 sec. I'll be right back. I'll be back in like 5 seconds just to make sure no one like barges in. 1 sec. All right, my bad. Can you just repeat that real quick?
I don't even remember what I said. I made a point. My mind started going to other things.
Like plastic surgery.
So your gender, right? Would that be based off of, or like, let's say I want to be a different gender? Would I have to get plastic surgery? Would I have to get breast implants? Would I have to castrate myself in order to be a girl? Or can I just feel like a girl? And that's what makes me a girl. Because there's some point during a transgender person's life where they decide to have the feeling of acting like to become a girl, but they haven't gotten surgery yet. Are they a girl in that circumstance, in that specific moment?
Yes.
They are. So it's not based off of your actual appearance. So like, what if I deep down had the desire to be a girl right now?
Yeah.
Would I be a girl?
Yeah, it's because the thing is, it's how you identify yourself, right? It's not how society labels you. If you want to label yourself
What?
as a girl, then you're free to label yourself as a girl.
But it's a social construct. It's based off what society labels you as. Like, if, by
No,
that logic, black people
no.
could become white and white people can become black because it's a social construct. And since it's about my feeling, then I can just make my feeling, or my feeling makes me want to be black. And now I'm black, even though it contradicts the actual description of me and it contradicts what I actually am. Right? Even though it's a social construct, it's still based in reality.
Having gender as a social construct just means that people collectively agree that gender exists. It doesn't mean that people go around labeling what gender people are. Like, sure, if you walk down the street, you can probably assume what gender you identify each person with, even though it's not completely accurate. But the reason why it doesn't matter is because even though gender is a social construct, even though gender is based off of how society thinks that we interact with people, at the end of the day, it's an individual label. The point of having an identity, the point of choosing to identify with either gender, is that that's how you want to identify with yourself. So sure, even though gender is a social construct that's built off of how society collectively views how people identify with each sex, at the end of the day, it's an individual preference. It's how you want to
Yeah.
identify.
Well, if society doesn't go along with it, then it has no basis and it has no meaning.
Okay, so what's your point?
My point is that if you transition into a girl and everyone still treats you as a dude, you're still a dude because society, according to your own definition, is still treating you like a dude. And that's how it works. Your gender is based off how you perceive society and how society interacts with you.
If I identify as black and everyone treats me as a white guy, am I still black?
If you try to become, wait, hold on, you were white and you became black, or you're black and you became white?
What doesn't matter.
No, it does. I mean, I'm asking, what's your actual race?
Let's say I'm a black guy, but everyone
Yeah.
treats me as a white guy. Am I still black?
Yes, you're still black.
Okay. Similarly, if I identify as a girl, if I personally identify and put that label on myself as a girl, and everyone treats me like a guy, even though it's likely not to happen, doesn't matter. Am I still a guy?
No, that's a bad comparison because the definition of race isn't based off of how society perceives you as. It's based off of what your actual skin color, your actual biological ancestry is when it comes to like your parents and your grandparents and what their race was and what their skin color was and their skin tone. So that's why I'm only criticizing your definition of gender simply because the definition doesn't work. I don't hold the same definition for race and other social constructs.
So how do you define race?
Define a race based off of your skin color, based off your skin tone, or I guess be kind of intertwined, based off other physical attributes, right? I think there are what they say there's like six main races, but I'd say it would be very similar to your ethnicity, and it's very similar like to that. I guess the United States would be kind of an exception just because there's so many different races within the United States. But I don't think that you can just change your race simply because it's a social construct, which you would agree.
Exactly. I don't think that you can change your race because it's kind of you can change your gender, but you can't change your race. And the reason why you can't change your race is because firstly, race is built off of many factors, right? It's built off of physical traits. That's how most people identify race, is based off of physical traits. So if you were to say that, if you, a clearly white person, were to say I'm black, that would generally not be true for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because you cannot change how your skin looks. Like, sure, you can get surgery, but you cannot change how your skin looks. Even if you could change how your skin looks, physical traits are not the only thing that goes into race. That's why race is a social construct. That's why if you ask 100 black people what it means to be black, you would have very different answers. You would have answers like pride. You would have answers like communal struggle, communal success, all of these things. And so even if you change one little thing about you, that doesn't mean that you're a black person. Comparatively, if you want to say I'm a guy, but now I'm a girl, it's less physical, it's more of a form of expression, right? And so you can be a guy and then say, I'm a girl, because it's based off of how you want to express yourself, versus on race, that's just like a very complex social thing. You cannot change your background and all of these things.
So race is based off your background. I think your argument that if you ask a bunch of black people what it means to be black, I think the reason they wouldn't just say because of my skin color, it's because it's such a symbolic question. It's like what does it mean to be an American? What does it mean to be like that? It seems it's not literally what makes you American is that you're born here legally or that you became a U.S. citizen. It would mean some sort of like I've got patriotism. I love my country. We are so great and powerful. That's why that comparison doesn't work because what it means to be black, that type of question would just be it would be a weird question. It wouldn't be like a literally look at my skin color question. But let's just say like what your definition of race is based off of what was it, your background?
It's a lot of things.
What if you're a white guy, you have white skin, but you're born in a black area, you live within black culture, you do all the things that black people do. Why are you not black?
Because the way that society treats race is as a social construct. You can look back to the Jim Crow era of segregation. There's a reason why white people were treated differently than black people. It's because of how they looked, right? The point of race is to create a social hierarchy which puts black people at the bottom and white people at the top. That's why race is a social construct. Is because even though it is kind of but not really at all based off of ethnicity and the way that it's based off of the way you look, the reason why race was created is for white people to group black people in a group and say, okay, now that we have grouped all these people in the same race, now we can treat them differently from each other. So what does this actually mean? If you're a white person who looks like you but grows up in a black community, the reason why you are not black is because you are not what society deems black according to history, is because historically you would be the oppressor and they would be the oppressed.
It'd be the exact same situation with gender. If you're a transgender person, you're a male your whole life, you're a man your whole life, and then all of a sudden you become a woman. Even if you do all the things that like a woman would do, the vast majority of society would still treat you as a man because you're still a man in the U.S. society. You're still a male, and that's one of the key characteristics. It's weird. Like you acknowledge that sex is a large part of gender, but you're kind of ignoring the whole part that society has labeled gender and sex almost synonymous in the sense that if you cannot change your sex, you cannot change your gender because your gender is fully based off of your sex. It's the same thing with race. Sure, society can't. I guess I was going to bring up the Michael Jackson situation where he like changed skin tones or whatever. The idea that society labels you as black because that's just how it is, and it's based off your skin color and based off the way you talk or whatever. I don't know. It'll be the same situation with gender. So either you have to. I don't really know like how you would address this. I guess I would just like want to hear your answer.
Yeah, could you just can you just like summarize what you said? Sorry about that.
So society won't change. Society is going to label you white based off of, I guess, many different things. The main thing being your skin color. Even though, let's say I was born in a black community, I act black, I have the black accent, I play basketball, I do all the things that a black person would do. I watch the movies that black people do, I listen to the music that black people do, but I have a skin color that's still white. Society would still call me white. It'd be the same situation with a person that's transgender. A man can become a woman and start doing everything a woman does. But if society continues to label that person as a man, then him being a transgender doesn't matter because he's still a man in the eyes of society.
It doesn't matter because it's a form of self-expression.
If it's just a self-expression, it's just a personality and it means nothing.
It does. You could say that gender is a personality because in a way you're right. It's a form of self-expression. Your personality is how you identify yourself. Race is not self-expression. Gender is self-expression. The reason why it doesn't matter is because if you say I want to be a girl, okay, fine. You can be a girl. The reason why you can be a girl is because you're expressing yourself as a girl, right? That's completely different with race.
So if it's just a personality, why do we even like acknowledge? Why is society making different bathrooms? Why can't we make bathrooms based off of sex? Why can't we make sports based off of sex? Why can't we separate people based off of sex rather than gender?
Bathrooms are based off of sex.
Okay, then that's what we're doing. We don't want the. Do you believe that transgender people should go in the opposite gender's restroom? Like a man should go in. It's a biological male but transitions into a woman should go into the women's restroom.
100%, yes.
Even though it's just a personality and it's not actually based off of sex.
It is based off of sex. The quote unquote personality, however you want to say, is based off of sex.
But it's not though because it's contradicting their sex. If it's based off of their sex and they can't change their sex, and they can't change their gender.
No, it's not based off of your own sex. Gender is based off of each sex, right? So it's not
Okay, I get it
contradicting
now.
because the definition of a woman, or I guess there's not really one, but how people define what a woman is based off of how people view based off of how people view like the female sex, right? So it's not the definition of gender is not tied to your own sex, it's tied to each individual sex and how society provides that. The reason why it's like I don't really get why people think that transgender women shouldn't be allowed into the female's bathroom. Like you can bring up the point of like they're just gonna do assaults or sexual assault or that, but I just think that's ridiculous because that's telling me that you, in your deepest of heart, believe some horrible person is out there and they're like, oh man, I just really want to assault women and do terrible, bad things to women. And I want to go in the women's bathroom and do these bad things. But, oh man, unfortunately, because I'm a man, I just like can't go in there and do that. Like, no, it's ridiculous, right? It's just this is just
No, it's not. If I see a man walking into the women's restroom, and anybody else sees a man walking into a men's restroom, and it's obvious that they're a man, and obviously someone's going to point it out because we acknowledge the biological difference between men and women, and we acknowledge that there's crazy men out there that do want to attack and assault women. That's why people will acknowledge and say something if they do see a man walking into the women's restroom. Obviously, it's already an issue right now, but if you're going to allow men to do it legally, that only make it bigger of an issue, make it more of an issue.
Alright, that's completely fine as long as you acknowledge that there are literally transgender men that look like Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Like, there are some transgender men built. So if you're saying that we should go to the bathroom based off of sex, that means that in your deepest of hearts, you're telling me that a woman's gonna feel unsafe around someone who's like acts feminine, wears a dress, has long hair, whatever, but they're somehow gonna feel safe around this 6'2" giant with shredded pecs, right? That makes absolutely no sense.
This is going to sound kind of crazy, but I think that anyone that actually does follow through and gets surgery to that extent and starts taking hormones and drastically changes their appearance that much, instead of even going to any sort of restroom, they need to be put. They need mental help. They need psychological help more than anything because that's not something that happens normally. They're either a lot of times they're messed up in the head.
Happens all of the time in society, and
Doesn't make it normal.
Slewer, you know what I'm saying? It makes people happier. It makes people happy with their lives. Like, what is the issue?
The self-unalivement rate for this community, even in very liberal areas, very supportive areas, are still significantly higher than it is for the rest of Americans.
Because of not targeting you, but it's because of people like you that say that living how they live is a crime. You know how dehumanizing and angry people? What?
Hey, then why
you?
Then why, by this logic,
like just mental help. Of course, it's gonna make these people more sad and more anxious. It's just so intuitive.
well, no, it's already a mental issue. Like no disrespect to y'all, but like you just talk to a few of these trans people. They're so extreme and violent that clearly it was something that happened prior experience that caused them to experience this situation. And again, I already mentioned that in these areas like California, like San Francisco or Los Angeles, that are very left leaning. It's already left leaning that already supports them for what they are. Right? Why is their self-unalivement rate still extremely high, even though everyone supports them? We're in Canada, or in the United Kingdom, or France, or Germany.
Because when you are a transgender person that wakes up in a loving family, you go on your phone and you see people saying, you deserve mental help. You are not right. You are not worthy of all of these things. That makes you feel sad. Because even if you surround yourself with friends that support you, you can't live your life knowing that there are people who want you to die, or at least want you to seek help just for you being healthy, right? It doesn't matter if you surround yourself with a loving family, because there are so many hateful people in the world. So you look at TikToks with millions of views, comment sections agreeing with them, and you feel like that's targeted to you, right? Obviously, you have so much negative media in the world targeted at you as a transgender person. It's intuitive that you're going to be less happy than the average person who isn't feeling these things.
I mean, as a white person, right? I've experienced a lot of hate for my race online. I've seen a lot of people that hate the white race, even though I didn't do anything. Guess what? Never in my life have I even gotten slightly upset that there's some crazy people online that hate me because of my skin color. And that's how it's true for the vast majority of people. Everyone has experienced some sort of online hate, whether it be like based off their gender, based off their race, based off of whatever else. But why is it specifically this community that experiences it? By the way, have you seen the hatred? I don't want to sound like a liberal here. Have you seen the hatred towards Jewish people? It's unbelievable. Yet they're not nearly experiencing the rates of self-unalivement like trans people are. The reason is because it isn't a self-hatred thing or an online hatred thing or a cyberbullying issue. It's a mental health issue.
I have a question for you. As a white man in America who has unfortunately experienced some hate on the internet, is there a policy saying that you do not deserve to exist as yourself?
No, there's no law that says that I can't exist as a white man in the United States right now, but there's also no law that tells trans people that they can't act as their biological sex. All it says is that if you want to join the military, you can't be taking hormones. That's the only federal law I can think of right now, or prohibits you from going to the other restroom based off of the other sex. And in that case, the law would apply to me just as much as it applied to you.
You have the federal government saying that you can't be in the military if you are trans and want to act on your transness. You have the federal government
Yeah.
saying that you don't belong in sports if you if you want to express your transgenderness. You have the president of the United States who consistently says that trans people are woke nonsense, that they don't deserve to express themselves. You have policies that obviously don't make it to the forefront because Democrats will just vote against them, but people want to make policies to ban these people as existence. The reason why you getting hate as a white male is incomparable to a trans person receiving hate is because trans people receive hate on the national level. You have the president of the United States telling you that you do not deserve to exist as a trans person, that you being able to participate in the activities is woke nonsense. You go on the social media and you see all of these people who are against you, right? You have so much more discrimination, so much more hate, so much more harassment than you, a white person, which the system is built to protect, will have in any say, way, or form. So obviously it's going to be intuitive that you have more mental health harms if the entirety of society, or at least the person that's supposed to be representing you, is saying that you don't deserve to be who you are and that you should seek serious help. That's just I don't understand how you cannot get that.
So yeah, if you're going to talk about the federal government, right? I think a key issue here is if President Trump's saying mean things about trans people, saying they're woke nonsense, it's what's causing them to unalive themselves, then why wasn't it under the Biden administration when they glazed trans people more than anybody in the world? The Biden administration glazed these people. They made flags about these people. They put them in the White House after the Catholic school pew-pewing. There's a trans person there. The press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, instead of saying, all right, there's an issue within the trans community, she instead victimized trans people for the guy being the pew-pew or the perpetrator being trans. So if you're talking about the federal government being mean to the trans people, why was it still an issue within the federal government, or why was it still an issue last few years when the federal government was glazing them? Also, how is society built to protect the white man? I mean, if it was built to protect the white man, why is the white man not at the top? I mean, income levels, the white man is somewhere, maybe not in the middle, but slightly above average. But there are tons of other groups of people that are making way more money than the white man. In fact, I would say that the only group of people, the only race in the entire world that is taught by society to hate their race and never acknowledge their own success is the white race. I mean, you talk about Asian accomplishments and Hispanic accomplishments and Black accomplishments and Native American accomplishments, but when it gets to white accomplishments, that's when we draw the line. That's when we're no longer allowed to acknowledge white success. I'm not really following there. I mean, even we could pull up statistics of how Harvard's significantly more likely to hire you if you have a black sounding name based off of your race. That's why a lot of people lie about their race on their college application.
I would happily switch I would happily switch this conversation to being about white privilege. Would you rather talk about the white advantage in society, or would you rather talk about gender? Because I don't want to talk about both.
It doesn't matter to me. I mean, you're the one that's on the guest, so.
Okay. Well, I mean, then I guess maybe if I come up here another time, we can talk about white privilege and such. But for now, I guess we can continue talking about gender. Anyways, what are you saying? You're saying, oh, if it happened under the Biden administration, why is it still an issue? Is that what you said?
Why was it an issue? Why was self-harm still an issue under the Biden administration. If the federal government makes that much of an impact over every single trans person life, then it wouldn't have been making such of an impact during the Biden administration.
If anything, I mean, I think you could turn that point to say why it would be understandable why there would be so much, self-hate for trans people. Because the thing is, the federal government, it's a large part, but you have to understand that there's also a lot of other people who just disagree with trans people's existences, right? You have to concede to that. You probably, I don't want to make any assumptions, but based off of what you're saying, it sounds like you're one of them. So the federal government is a big part of it, but you also have a bunch of